Hello, welcome back to my witch obsession. If you're seeing this will be a horoscope for all 12 signs from July 20th through July 26th. I've written down everything that I want to talk about. This week is a little bit less eventful, but yeah, as always, timestamps will be in the description box below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the way down there, and I'll see you at your reading. Oh my gosh, you guys. So I have a lot that I want to talk to you all about. Actually, there's so much that happened in the past 2 weeks. First thing I want to say, I haven't been doing my eyebrows, and I gotta say, I just like my eyebrows the way that they are. I kept getting them threaded, and I feel like they were too small. And lately, they're just a lot bushier. Obviously, maybe I could put a little brow gel and like comb them out, but aside from that, I wouldn't do anything else to them. I don't know. I was just thinking about it because I think it's really attractive when people have like very bushy eyebrows, even if they're a little bit unkempt. And I was like, why doesn't the same thing apply to me? So I don't know. I haven't done anything to them for over a month now. And I was just thinking about it the other day, looking in the camera, and I was taking selfies. I was like, wow, I really like my eyebrows just the way that they are. Why did I try to change them? But anyhow, and I also realized it because I caught my passport photo taken. So I got the application for my passport. I got a photocopy of an ID and also my picture taken. And I'm probably going to set up the appointment next week. But this is my passport picture. Oh my gosh, I was so happy with the way it came out. Doesn't it look... I think it looks really good. Imagine this was the thumbnail. That'd be so silly. You want to bet? Okay. Okay. Anyways. So, yeah, there's that. And I say that these past 2 weeks were a lot because so I flew out to Kentucky for 4th of July, and that's why there wasn't a reading that week. I was trying to film it ahead of time, and I was able to film the most recent one, the video before this. I was able to film that one ahead of time, but I got like deathly ill. I was so sick, and I couldn't talk for more than 30 seconds without coughing or breaking out in hot sweats. So I was like, hey, this is not gonna happen. And then I didn't have enough time to film while I was in Kentucky because I was just like, I was doing stuff for my family and whatnot. So, and yeah, that's what was going on at that point. And a lot of stuff happened right after I filmed the last video. So basically, I had broken up with somebody that I was talking to, and then the same day, a friend of mine asked me out. We went on a few dates. They stayed over here for like a week straight, like in this room, like where I am filming right now. And then they still asked me to be just friends because they were like, just they thought it would be better for us. And then I told them to leave and get out of my life. And then I haven't talked to them since, of course. I unfollowed them on everything and all that good stuff. And then I found out that they got back with their ex. I don't know what to tell y'all. That is the life of a Scorpio Venus. So I initially broke up with the first person because in the heat of the moment, I felt like they crossed some boundaries with me, and neither of us really realized it, but it was very triggering. And it was annoying because I felt like I was giving more in the relationship. And granted, I was like, oh, well, like we're only a month and a half in. But at the same time, they had told me like, oh, like I've never been in a relationship before. And granted, I've never been in a relationship that's longer than 6 months. But at the same time, I'm gonna sound a little crazy here, but I feel like I just know, like, after a month of like what somebody is like. And after that facade was kind of dissolving, I was like, dang, I kind of don't like what I'm seeing, yo. I kind of liked it better when we were just pretending to be other people. Because I was showing my true colors, they were showing their true colors, and I was just like, okay, this isn't gonna work, y'all. And I do believe that had I not left them and then this Mercury retrograde passed, I think that we would have been together for a pretty long time. And maybe the relationship would have gotten better. Maybe, I think that's just how it is. You know, I feel like relationships have their ups and downs. I think that the relationship would have probably had a very terrible start, but I think that with time, maybe it would have gotten way better. And then with time, it would have gotten worse again. Okay. I always think about this thing that Michelle Obama had said. I don't even know if she said it, but I remember she was like, yeah, like Barack and I, like we had these 2 years where it was really bad, you know, and then it got way better after that. And then I think about my other friend and her mom. She was like, yeah, like I was with her dad and like, you know, for like a while we almost like broke up a few times, but you know, and like even my brother and his wife, you know, like they talk a lot about the times that they almost broke up. And I commend them for that, honestly. I think about that, and when I put it through that scope, I'm like, okay, I do believe that we could have worked out. I do believe that we could have stayed together. But from the looks of it, I think that it would have really worn me down. And this is like a very pivotal time of my life, I feel. So yeah, I think that there was a lot of opportunities to grow and change there. And maybe I feel a little bit immature for breaking it off. Maybe I was a little bit toxic. That's just how I am. Like I realize that relationships will be like very turbulent for me until I'm a little bit older. But I just don't see the point of like being with somebody if I like know what I want and I just like don't have it in the moment, you know? I don't know. But overall, I'm happy that June is over, first of all, and I'm happy that those connections are over because I felt like I was very calm and I was very go with the flow. And also this person that like kind of like did me dirty in the second part, the person that asked me to be friends and got back with their ex, I felt like they were very envious and I felt like they were very jealous. And I felt like it kind of messed with me a little bit because they were always just very focused on other people. And don't get me wrong, y'all, like as a little sibling, I'm like I don't mind my own business sometimes either. And I'm sometimes very absorbed in what others are doing, but at the same time, I don't do so in a way where I'm constantly comparing myself to other people, but I more so do so in a way where like people like genuinely inspire me, you know? Like people inspire me to do certain things and change certain things in my life. And I want that in people, you know? I don't like being around people who I feel like don't emulate a part of my life that I want to better, you know? Like, sorry, I'm like kind of. I have friends and I feel like they're genuinely trying to become better people and do better in their own lives. Like, my dear friend, she's just always focused on herself and she's always working through like her career and stuff, and she's just always trying to better her life and introspect, and I love that about her. And I feel like we both have enough space in the relationship to do that, you know, like we don't put issues on each other, but we like support each other and like grow through it. And I absolutely adore her for it, and I kind of want that in like a romantic relationship, you know? And I I feel like, okay, here's like the another thing that like really made me want to leave this person, the first person, is they were like overly adhered to their family, and it was in kind of a toxic way. And they have like contracts and like insurance and stuff together, you know, like you can't just get out of that. And because of that, I didn't really like when I thought about our relationship, I was like, okay, one way, shape, or form, their family will be involved in our relationship. And I don't like the idea of that. I, especially because I don't know if their family would have liked me. And the only reason I have this opinion on that is because the person I dated before that, their family was heavily involved in our relationship. Because I always had to go to them because it's just like a whole thing. And their family was just like always in our business. And I strongly believe that their family would like talk about me in a not so great way while I wasn't around. And when I think back to that, I'm like, I literally never want to go through that again. And I don't okay, I don't want it to be where the family favors me over them or favors them over me. Do you see what I mean? Like I don't want their name in your mouth and I don't want my name in your mouth, you know? I don't want you telling me like, "Oh, like you're so great for this person," or like, you know, "I wish they were more like you," or something like that. You know, I'm like I just don't want to be compared to their brother slash son slash whatever, you know? And because of that, if you when I meet people and they're overly adhered to their family or like overly attached and they're binded to them, like that's kind of a red flag for me, you know. And I think that's every Cancer Saturn, but it's just like boundaries are very important there. And you know, I get it because I've had to work very hard on boundaries of my family, so that's why I moved 2,000 miles away from them. But it's just like I know I need that, and I know that we all do better when that is in place. Because when I lived with my family, I don't think I was in the right headspace at all, because my family puts a lot on, like I feel like they put me through a lot and I put them through a lot. And now that we have space, I feel like we're able to like think and introspect, especially because all my family, I have 8th and 12th house synastry with them, literally every single person. And so because of that, I just would rather be with somebody who is not entangled with their family, you know? Because that is just like a lot for me and it just like triggers me really bad. And I just like don't like to deal with that, especially in SoCal, because I think that the culture over here is a lot more family and people get weird about it. At least that's what I think. Maybe I'm being like, maybe I'm being an asshole about it. Maybe I'm just like I don't know, like maybe it's just me, but me personally, that was the one reason that I was okay with getting with the second person. And it was because like they're not overly entangled with their family, you know, they like do their own thing. And that was like a green flag for me and like something that I liked about them. And I think that that's, you know, and like I said, I don't mind if their family is involved in the relationship because I would want that too, you know, like I would want my family to somehow be involved in the relationship, but not like in a way, it's more like they are aware of it, not like they are in the relationship with us, you know? I don't mind spending time with your family, like doing things for them, helping them, being a part of it in some way, shape, or form. You know, it's like if the relationship is to progress and get more serious, duh, they're gonna be important and they will be involved in some way. So that's just duh. But if it's like in the beginning of the relationship, you are clearly like they are codependent of you or you are codependent of them, and that is affecting our relationship, that really turns me off. Like that is not something that you cannot, I don't feel like, I'm not looking to change people. That's my thing. I don't want to change anyone and I don't want anyone to try to change me. When I change myself for relationships, it's not because my partner is forcing me to or wanting me to. It's because I know that it will be for the greater good of the relationship. So if I don't see them taking that incentive as well and I'm doing all that heavy lifting, it's just like, then you can't do that and that's fine. So let me go find someone else, you know? But that's what I think. I think that that's like a very sensitive topic for a lot of people, including myself. But I kind of just wanted to come out clean with that with y'all since I know that like June was an absolute dumpster fire and Mercury is currently retrograde in Cancer, you know? But yeah, that was just, I'm just glad it's over. I'm just really, really, really glad it's over. And I hope that I don't have to deal with that again. Like, I'm not really sure if I should be in the dating scene with Saturn in my 5th house right now. I don't know, y'all. And Neptune's there as well. It was just like a messy love triangle. Anyways, so let's get back to being happy and normal. I finished 2 books ever since my last video, and I'm on a new book. It's called What Am I, a Deer by Polly something. But these are the 2 books I finished. I wanted to read some like cutesy summary vibe books because after this book, I was like, girl, I need to read something like normal and happy. But I read these ones. These are both romance novels. This one I just finished yesterday. So today's Thursday. Today's what, like the 16th? And I finished this on the 15th. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was very deep. So the premise of the book, or like the prognosis, is like this girl, her mom dies and she finds her old journal, and then she moves to Italy, and she learns about her mom through like this adventure, and she gets help from this person, and that person and her, you know, like catch feelings for each other because they go through so much. So that was kind of it. But I thought that this book would be a lot more cliche and annoying than I ended up actually being. My friend had talked about this book and she said she absolutely loved it. So when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh. And there's a lot of themes of like grief and like panic and stuff in the book, which I was very surprised by. But overall, I do think that it was a very beautiful summary read and I liked it. And then this book my friend gave to me, and it was, I really, really like the description of the book. I think of both of these books, I would read it for the story and the other characters and the development as opposed to the romance. I read this book and it was such a drag, you guys. Like the middle portion of the book, don't get me wrong, it paid off, but like when it drags like that, I'm like, all right, y'all, when are they making a baby? You know what I'm saying? Like that is the truth. And so the premise of this book is that this girl is just like going through a lot when it comes to like her career. It's funny because photography was present in both books. I'm like, should I buy a camera, y'all? But this girl, she meets this guy that she knew when she was a little kid because she took a picture of him, and then their relationship is explored as she visits the lake that she went to when she was younger just because of her grandma. And the book was alarmingly morbid at times, and the main character was a Cancer, which I was like, oh, I know what's going on. And the bit last of the book, like I said, I wouldn't read this book for the romance. I would read it for the characters, character development, and how things come full circle in terms of like love and support from like family and loved ones. So that was really, really beautiful. I like the main characters, like the girl protagonist, like her family, like her relationship with her family and how it shone through was so beautiful, and I really liked it. And that's how relationships should be. Your family shouldn't be running your relationship, okay? They should be supporting you and helping you, how you can treat the person better and how you can be better and provide for you, okay? They shouldn't be taking you away from the person as a way to compete. Oh my gosh, that gets on my nerves, you know? It's like you're grown. We are growing up, y'all. Like, there's one more thing I wanted to mention. I forgot what it was. Oh, okay. This has been like a deeply personal thing. I haven't told many people about it, at least in my personal life, because I don't mind telling you all. I don't know why. I just feel like if you have watched this far, I'm under the impression that we are like, you know what I'm saying? But anyhow, so I start school next month, and I've just been like really like antsy, and I've been very like nervous and hyper aware. I have been fixing my entire life. Venus and Virgo has been putting in work, y'all. So I when I got back from Kentucky, I was a little bit jet lagged because it is 3 hours ahead over there. So I've been using that to fix my sleep schedule. So I've been going to bed between like 8 and 11, and then waking up at like 6 in the morning. And let me tell you, I love it. It makes me feel so much better. Granted, I feel bad because I feel like I'm not a very productive person. I'm so lazy. But I've been on top of it with like my Etsy and, you know, like filming and stuff, and it makes me really happy because like this, like I really care about this, you know. But I feel like I wasn't able to give as much to you all because I was so engrossed in like my personal relationships, and they weren't really doing the same for me, which makes me really, really mad because I feel like people don't really respect how much I care about this, like my videos and like filming and like building this, you know, like this like is the world to me, you know, like baby, I'm going to school and stuff to support this. At the end of the day, this is like my baby, you know, like this is my home, this is my house. At the end of the day, I'm thinking about like, all right, but this is 100% mine. This all me. This is me, my hard work, my time, my labor, my love, my ideas, my inspiration, and collaboration. So I don't know where I was going with that, but anyways, so I'm starting school next month, and I guess my point is like I'm very nervous because like I haven't been to school in a really long time, and I am excited, and I feel very proud, and I think that I'm gonna do great things because I want to get a job. I want to get a new job, and I want to get a job at like a bank, and then I really like this bank. It's Chase, and I really want to work there, and you know, my friend works there, and I was like, oh my gosh, like if I work there, then like I can, like work there and go to school and like, do that and like film in between. And then I really want to go to Berkeley. I don't know why, but like I was just thinking about it one day. I was like, where can I go to school? Because I want to pursue law. I don't know if I'm gonna get my JD. I kind of do feel like I want my bachelor's, but I don't know if I wanted my JD. But I was like, I do want to be in the scope of it in case I want it later, and I do want to study for it just in case, but I don't know if I want it yet. But I was like, okay. And then I found out Berkeley has a good law school, and it felt like very strange because you guys, I'm going to tell you a big secret, but my favorite romance novels are the ones that are published in Berkeley. And I think the first one, hold on. Yeah, like some of the first romance novels I ever read, they are like Berkeley, like Jasmine Guillory, all of those are published in Berkeley. Like a lot of the ones up here, like Berkeley. And I just love it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like is like, and so I think I'm gonna go to get my associates, and then I want to apply for Berkeley, and then, or like another school, if I don't get accepted into Berkeley, like too bad, so sad, like we can move on. That would be really amazing though. And then if I get a job at the bank, then I can transfer and then move over there and go to school over there. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, that sounds so nice. And I'm like, that sounds so fun. And it sounds like, I don't know, this is my Jupiter return, and I've just been thinking about it lately, and I was just like, okay, a degree, the way I perceive a degree is a lot different now. I used to think of it as like, oh my god, like why the education system trying to get my money and like make me do work? But then I see it as like, ooh, but if you got a degree, like you'll be able to always do something with that. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, that's all I have to say. Today's ramble ran a little bit longer because it's just been a week and I wanted to catch up with you all. But thank you all so much for being here, honestly. I feel, if I have to be raw, I feel very like unstable, and I feel very nervous, and I feel like very vulnerable, and like even like a little bit insecure, because I just feel like I'm going through like a lot of changes right now, and it's hard for me to perceive the situation and like myself because everything keeps changing. But like I want it, like I want this, and I I hope that whatever you all are going through, I hope that you feel that I'm supporting you too from here, and that we are all in this together, and we are all one, and we are in this reciprocity where one of us thrives, the rest of us will thrive. I personally feel like I'm thriving right now, and if I'm thriving, then that means you're thriving too, and we are thriving and growing together. Okay, I will see you at your reading. I love you. Okay, starting out with Sagittarius rising. So hello, Sagittarius. If you're seeing this, this will be your horoscope for July 20th through July 26th. Also, special shout out to you. You saw me in the mall. You know who you are if you're seeing this, but I just wanted to say hi to you. Somebody recognized me in the mall. I was like, oh my god, hi. But hi, I'm so glad that you're here. Anyways, and everyone else, I'm glad that we're all here. Anyway, Sagittarius, so mainly what I wanted to talk about is how this week will sort of be a continuation of the week before, because in last week you had a new moon in Cancer in your 8th house. And then this week on the 23rd, Mercury will go direct in your 8th house. Praise whatever's out there, okay? Because I definitely think that this is good news for your finances. I think that this is good news for your relationships. I think that this is good news for your mind as well. I definitely think that because Mercury rules your 7th and your 10th house, a lot of you will probably have a little bit more clarity and some good news and ideas when it comes to your career and your interpersonal relationships. If you have been making consultations with people like lawyers or, people who can help you like refinance something, or if there has been something going on of like mortgages and stuff, I would imagine that this is a time where things will sort of be sorted out. And I think that this is like a very good week to apply for stuff like that, especially like maybe this isn't the best week. If you could wait, I think that when Mercury goes out of shadow by the beginning of next month, that would be so much better. But you know, can't always have it like that. I think the good thing is that your Jupiter is in, or Jupiter's in your ninth house right now, and it's aspecting your ascendant, and then the sun is in, you know, Jupiter is in the sun's territory and the sun is in Cancer. So I definitely think that right now a lot of you are receiving money from your family, paying your family back, getting money back from like a rent or a lease situation. But for others of you, I also think that this could be deep emotional conversations with partners and going through transformations when it comes to emotional boundaries and emotional patterns when it comes to other people. Now, Gemini and like Mercury could be about like siblings, and Cancer is the mother. So maybe this could be like relatives on your mother's side of the family. This could be you addressing mother wounds when it comes to how you take care of yourself and your body. And maybe you're approaching like a completely different way of looking at it in order to nurture yourself more. And I definitely think that Mercury going direct is like the creme de la creme of this week, because I think that it will be very cathartic for you, in where that you will have a lot more clarity with like an eighth house theme. And I also think that because a lot of you have probably gone through exes coming back left and right, or even you going back to exes, you know, the eighth house is about resurrecting or killing off things. So this could have been relevant in a relationship or financial situation as well, where you are killing off a debt or killing off a relationship or resurrecting something in order to bring it back into your life. And because Cancer is very long term, it doesn't forget. It could be that this is with somebody who is like from a very long time ago, you know, for a lot of you. And I also want to say that simultaneously, the day before, we will see Leo season start. So on the 22nd, Leo season will start. The sun will move into Leo. And then we will also see the sun come into a square with Chiron. And then the day after is when Mercury goes direct. So I definitely feel like there's like a lot of credence to the sun moving into your ninth house. It's illuminating it. And the sun is in its rulership. So the sun will be very, very, very powerful here. And I think that this will be highlighting a lot of travel, going on trips. A lot of you could literally just be traveling and going on trips this weekend. And I think that with the square to Chiron, make sure to be careful when it comes to like your resources, so like losing things, especially because in the beginning of the week, the moon will be in Scorpio and it will come into a square with Pluto. And I noticed that when Sag risings go through this aspect, y'all end up losing something, or like something goes wrong with like your transportation. So it's like losing your keys or losing track of something. Maybe a luggage goes missing, or like there's a confusion with like the tags and stuff. And maybe this could have been like an ongoing thing. It's just getting addressed this week. But I say that you could lose something because like, you know, Chiron and Taurus, and then like Venus and Virgo, it could be like, you know, like especially if you have like medical equipment that you need, or like EpiPens, like keep track of those things this week. But overall, I also think that this could be like a healing moment where a lot of you are probably trying to self-soothe through traveling, and maybe you're trying to like get out there. And mind you, at the same time, Jupiter is also in an opposition with Pluto in your third house right now. And I think that with the moon also in a square with Pluto, the beginning of the week, like the first half of it, could just like entail a lot of the stuff going on with your mind, stress with your mind, feeling like psyched out and just being very like overwhelmed, or like your mind being in different places because of different things in your life. It could be because of your relationships with Mars in your seventh house. So that could be relevant for a lot of you. I think that other people in just some way, shape, or form are bringing a lot of conflict and turmoil into your life. So even if it's like they are not directly causing issues with you, it could be that they are just going through a lot and you're sort of getting roped into it, especially with like Mercury in your eighth house, you know, like your seventh house ruler, and the eighth house is an aspect to your ascendant. So it's a little bit harder to find boundaries there, emotional boundaries. But I feel like the sun squaring Chiron will be a major opportunity for you to be like, hey, like I'm not always going to be available to you, you know, like I want to do what I want to do. I need to take care of myself. So I definitely think that this is a moment where a lot of you could be saying things, and you know, like Chiron and Taurus has trouble saying things, you know, communicating rules of throat. So I think that the name of the game this week, Sagittarius, is really speaking your mind a little bit and not being afraid to hurt other people's feelings, because sometimes, you know, like they just need to grow and change and do better instead of relying on you. And it's like, and not nobody care when your feelings were involved. So, but anyhow, not to get all personal, but the nice thing about the moon in Scorpio, it will also square Jupiter. So that's another thing that I feel like this week may present like a lot of mental things, and you'll have to like perceive things from a different situation. So like therapists, psychiatrists, and like mentors will be important this week in some way, shape, or form. Or it could be a good thing to bring in another person to help you with something like that, like maybe like a professional or a very trusted person, trusted adult. So maybe a partner. The nice thing I said though is that the moon will come into a trine with Mercury and the sun. I definitely think that if you speak your mind, if you say things, and if you communicate, people will be there to support you. Like that is the best way I say it, especially like family members. And then in the second half of the week, I also think that if there's like family that you've been wanting to reach out to, but you've been too nervous to, the beginning of the week is a very good time to do that. And then in the second half of the week, the moon will be in Sagittarius, and it will oppose Uranus and Mars. And I want to mention that first because I definitely think that the second half of the week could present more loopholes when it comes to your relationships. So the second half of the week, just be aware of like conflict and drama with other people, especially like unpredictable stuff. So it's kind of like, make sure you're kind of going with your facts straight, or like make sure that you try to check people if they start coming at you sideways, you know, because I just think that moon opposed Mars in your first and seventh house, like that is so giving like push and pull and like conflict and like frustration in a relationship. And because it's in Sag and Gemini, it's probably about communication. But then the moon will be in a trine with Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter. A very, very nice thing. I think that the moon trining Saturn is really nice because I think that this will be a lot of you all getting to the basics. I think that this is coinciding with Mercury going direct, since, you know, like Mercury's in a moon ruled sign. I think that for a lot of you, this is like good news regarding a goal. I think that this is good news regarding like a romantic situation. I think that this could be good financial news for a lot of you as well. Maybe you're getting like a new job. Especially since a lot of you may have gone through some sort of like a layoff or like major change or loss at work. But then the moon also trine Jupiter, which is really nice. So it's like good news of like acceptance letters, applications, things like that, where you're getting news back from like a higher system or institution or foundation regarding something that you're trying to put into it. This could also just be like you're getting mail or like a passport or something like that, or maybe like a driver's license. But overall, I think that the second half of the week will be a lot of movement, and it will feel like you have a little bit more say in your personal goals, but it may be your relationships that are causing a little bit of like a diciness. So you may have to navigate that in some way, shape, or form. I also don't have a tarot deck right here, so let me go grab one. I don't know which one to use. Let's use this one. Yeah, for you, we have the Seven of Wands. I think that this resonates very strongly because it's definitely like, is this not you right now? You know, having to put out fire after fire, do thing after thing, and take care of just a bunch of stuff. I definitely think that with Venus and Virgo right now, your sixth house ruler, there's just like a lot of responsibilities on your table that you're probably imposing upon yourself. And I just want to say, like, really stand on it, you know? Nobody's going to advocate for your boundaries and, you know, do the things that, you know, like, excuse me, no one's gonna water your garden and take care of your stuff like you will. So make sure you say to that, and don't be afraid to say no. Just say no. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Sagittarius. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. I love quiet. Now moving on to Aries rising. So hello, Aries rising. If you're seeing this, this will be a horoscope for July 20th through July 26th. And I believe that this week will be just like a continuation of last week, kind of wrapping stuff up and getting more clarity. Because this week on the 23rd, Mercury will be going direct, finally. And this is after playing off the fact that you had a new moon in Cancer last week, and then the Mercury is going direct in this sign. So there's definitely some sort of like a synchronicity here when it comes to your home, your living situation, but also your how do I say it, like deep emotional conditioning. You know, Mercury rules your third and sixth house. So I definitely think that a lot of you have revised your routines and habits, health, and communication style when it comes to home and family. Whether it be that you have just been servicing your family in some way or helping them, whether it be that you've been moving, whether it be, you know, like you're changing up something about your living situation and family. And it could be very minuscule, but because this is squaring your ascendant, I definitely like think that this has been a very distinct time period for Aries risings. So I definitely think that everything that I've just said, it has manifested in one way, shape, or form. It doesn't have to be that you yourself are moving either. It could just be that family's moving and you've just been assisting them. But anyhow, and then on the 22nd, so backtracking a day, the sun will move into Leo and come into square with Chiron on the 23rd. So it's like this is all kind of coinciding together. And the sun will move into your fifth house, which I think you'll really like. And then it will square Chiron in your second house, which I think you'll really hate. I think that this will be a moment of healing for you and your self-worth. There may be desires to emotionally spend. Chiron wants to heal and it wants to make things better, but sometimes like healing is ugly. Sometimes healing just makes things worse. And I think that with Chiron moving here and like the sun, a lot of you may be redefining how you have fun, especially if you approach fun in like a very transactional or stale way, you know, especially if you just like emotionally spend or if you do self-destructive things, you know. And, you know, with Venus and Virgo at the moment, so Venus is kind of dictating what's going on if your second house in Virgo. I think that a lot of you right now could be healing through developing routines, developing more connection, and maybe taking care of your body a little bit more, getting back on track. And because the sun is the self, like it wants to do what it wants to do, and your chart ruler Mars is also in your third house, which leads me to also believe that a lot of you are very, very focused on the habits that you actively participate in. And mind you, the moon will also be in Scorpio in the beginning of the week. So there will be transformations to be had here, and it will square Pluto. And this is all just making me think that a lot of you right now are thinking more long term, thinking about the future, right? Pluto in Aquarius in 11th house. So it's like fear and like strong powers and having to invest great energy into an 11th house theme. So it's like your hopes and your dreams and your social circles, who you are around. And this may be playing off like the sun's coming into a square with Chiron, especially with Jupiter in your fifth house coming into a square with Pluto as well. So I think that a lot of you are getting more serious about your goals and your ambitions and, you know, taking care of yourself more or being more focused on like, how can I improve my life and how can I just do that on my own? And with your chart ruler Mars in the third house, I think that this is a time where a lot of you could be doing so through the use of the internet, applying for things, going to classes, going to instructional classes. It makes me think of like yoga classes for some reason, or like, you know, everybody been saying Pilates, so that could be it. But I just think that a lot of you are actively or are being provided the resources to garner and seek out information that will really help you. And I want you in particular to pay attention, Aries, because now that everything is clearing up in your fourth house, know that the beginning of next month, Mars will move into your fourth house. So whatever is going on this month and whatever has happened this month in terms of your home and family will be a major precursor to what's going on in August, especially when it comes to your interpersonal relationships. So I definitely think that this week alone will just be like a wake up moment. I think that it will make you realize like, there's something I want to do and I don't feel like I was good enough for it, but now I kind of just want to get on it. And I think it's because of something else you've been doing. Like I feel like a lot of you have maybe tried something new as of late and it is honing your self-worth. And essentially a lot of you are probably feeling a lot better about yourself. And if that not be the case, I think that this is one of those weeks where if you want to feel better about yourself, it's time to start now. And I want to say also the moon, when it's in Scorpio, it will trine the sun and Mercury, which is very, very beautiful. I think that the moon in Scorpio, a lot of you could be receiving money from your family. Obviously Scorpio like takes and gives, so it could be that like maybe there's like an issue with a family member, like a disability, and you're getting money for it. And it's kind of like, hey, yo, like we got money, but also like grandpa not doing so well, so I don't know. Mercury is about siblings and the sun is about like children's in your chart, so it could be that there's something going on with like children or work and like maybe like compensation or insurance is somehow involved and you're getting like a payout for it. Aside from that, it could, especially if you any of you have dealt with like a car issue, or if you got like a car accident, or if there was like conflict revolving around like a car or like an appliance, maybe even like, you know, like a water heater or something, or like water issues, and this is you getting a payout for that. Maybe it like rained really hard, or maybe a place flooded. Anyways, the second half of the week, the moon will be moving into Sagittarius, and it will oppose Mars and Uranus. And I really want you to pay attention to this, because I think that the second half of the week could present some kind of like uncertainty when it comes to like a travel affair. So maybe some of you are having to suddenly commute or like drive very far or go somewhere, or maybe a lot of you are actively wanting to travel and you've planned something and you're just going on a trip this weekend, and maybe it's to see like family or somebody that you haven't seen in a very long time. But it could also be related to like business, because the moon will also be in a trine with Neptune, Jupiter, and Saturn. So maybe some of you are like traveling abroad, or maybe some of you are traveling overseas or going near a body of water or like a city. Are any of y'all going to Venice? I was like thinking like city and water. I was like, ooh, Venice got a lot of water in it, so maybe y'all are going there. So let me know. But that's just for some of you, not all of you, of course. But I also think that the second half of the week is definitely a lot of travel. Maybe this could also be about like education. A lot of you could be getting a nice acceptance letter. Maybe some of you are trying to dorm somewhere, like move abroad for like work stuff. But I definitely think that the second half of the week will impose a lot of uncertainty and like turbulence and volatility when it comes to communication. So I'm telling every single sign this, but watch out what you're saying and throughout the course of this week. And there could be a lot of action being taken when it comes to like group interviews and trying to get into the rooms full of people so that you can talk and negotiate and whatnot. For you, we get the Wheel of Fortune. I definitely get that vibe from this week. There's definitely something very unpredictable about it, especially since the moon will come into an aspect with Mars and Uranus in the second half of the week, and Uranus and Mars are in the same house. So I think that this week is one of those weeks where you really just want to play it by ear and take it as what it is, and, you know, take things at face value, because I think that the way that the week starts versus how it ends will be completely different from one another. So my best piece of advice to you is have fun, Aries. You know, enjoy yourself. And there will be times where I feel like when you decide to enjoy yourself, even if it's a little bit selfish, you'll feel bad about it, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Maybe you shame yourself for enjoying yourself because you're so used to being tethered to other people or like your family in some way. But I think that this week, as you choose yourself and fill up your own cup, you'll notice that things change very radically and very suddenly, whether it be for the bad or worse. But we know that at the end of the day, it will be for the better of you. Anyways, wise airplane. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, Aries. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. I love you. Okay, now moving on to Taurus rising. So hello, Taurus. If you are seeing this, this will be your horoscope for July 20th through July 26th. And honestly, Taurus, I feel like this week for you will be very organized. I feel like, okay, don't quote me on that, but I mean organized in the sense that I think that you are straightening out your mind and taking care of your mind. Because I definitely think that a lot of the retrograde and what's been going on in your third house has left you in complete disarray. And I think that a lot of you are recalibrating yourself at an emotional level through the mind. So a lot of you could be seeing a therapist, talking to a loved one, especially like a sibling or like your partner in crime. A lot of you could be talking to your mother, but a lot of you could also just be, like I said, consulting a professional or hitting up somebody who can help you, which if that is something that you've been considering, this is definitely a great time to do it. I think that because Venus is also in Virgo, your first and sixth house ruler, this is just like, you know, Venus in the fifth house, like that is such a great time to like bond with clients. It's a good time to, you know, be more intimate with your work, be more intimate with like getting services done, like get a massage. I'm so serious. Like go get a massage, and or, you know, get a service done for you, or like hire somebody, you know. And it doesn't even have to be that, you know. If you've been cooking dinner every day, maybe go out to eat somewhere, maybe go to the place that you haven't gone to in like a very long time. Especially because Cancer, with all this Cancerian energy, Cancer is like very emotionally attached, so like go somewhere that maybe you have like deep emotional ties to or whatnot. So I think that that could be really fun for you, because on the 23rd, Mercury will be stationing direct. And this is playing off of the fact that we had that new moon in Cancer, which is where Mercury is, last week on like the 14th. And so I feel like these two things are kind of playing off of each other. And because this is all happening in your third house, that's why I was saying it was like the mind and your habits and what you actively are doing with your mind. And I think that a lot of you are learning to nurture yourself through words. Read a good book. Read a good book, read inspiring quotes, listen to songs that you really like and listen to as a kid or something. That will be very healthy for you. And then I want to say that because Mercury has rulership over your 5th house as well as your 2nd house, for some reason, I feel like this is like a lot of you have probably been mothering other people. A lot of you, you know, like the 3rd house is conscious. It wants, like, this is what we actively do, and Cancer wants to nurture others. So it gives me the vibe that a lot of you have been nurturing other people and a lot of you have been giving to others. And I think that this week there will be an opportunity for you to receive nurturing and for you to receive help, but it requires you to communicate that, because at the beginning of the week, the moon will be in your opposite sign, Scorpio, and then Leo season will also start around the same time. So the sun will move into Leo on the 22nd, excuse me, and immediately come into a square with Chiron. And Chiron's in your sign, so first of all, I think that this could be a lot of healing to your body. I think that this is very congruent to what's been going on these past few months, because I know that some Taurus risings had some health stuff coming up. And I think that with Mars in Gemini, a lot of you have probably been investing a lot of money into health, or a lot of the inconveniences that have been happening to you. So I think that a lot of you have been dealing with like car stuff and like transportation stuff as well. Oh my gosh, you know who you are and who you just know. But I definitely think that this will be the week where you see a lot of healing when it comes to like family stuff and like your self-worth. So it could be that a lot of you are just like, you know, like healing your body, developing better habits, and finding a lot of pleasure and joy in that. You know, Taurus, nobody's gonna make you do something that you don't want to do. But I think that this week a lot of you will find some sort of like middle ground of it. So if it's like your doctor's like, hey, you need to get in like a lot like more steps in every single day, and you're like, girl, I'm not doing all that. And then you find a way to do that, but it's in a way where it's like you like it, you know. It's like instead of like going for a boring AF walk, maybe you don't like that, you're like, oh, like let me do jumping jacks, or like let me go to like a studio where I'm able to like dance, and you know I'm getting my steps in, but it's just different, you know. So it's something like that where you're able to be more creative and fun, but also productive, which is like what you love, since your 5th house is Virgo, you know. Venus is there. So it's like a lot of you are very focused on your children. A lot of you are focused on being of service to people. A lot of you are finding ways to self-improve at the moment. And I think that with Mercury being retrograde in your 3rd house, maybe there's been a lot of lines to find here in terms of like, how do you probably have been finding a lot of joy and pleasure in being there for others and helping others, but maybe this week it's a time for a lot of you to take care of yourself. And I really want you to keep that in mind, because this, whatever you're noticing right now, is a precursor to what's going on in August, because Mars will move into Cancer next month. So buckle up and be ready for that. I think that if you handle this time around very well, then Mars and Cancer will be infinitely more productive for you, because it will be about you consciously setting boundaries of people and drawing lines and setting your like pushing away people whenever it's necessary. But if you continue on this week being like, oh, like I'll just, you know, give a little bit more, maybe they'll finally get it together, maybe, you know, like it'll, no, like that will make August very, very difficult for you. So don't say I didn't warn you. But in the beginning of the week, the moon will be in Scorpio and it will square Pluto and Jupiter. And so I definitely think that this is kind of showing that a lot of you may be going through stuff with like your career and your status and like your long-term goals. And maybe there could also be something going on with like personal relationships and how that relates to like your reputation and status, or it could even be like another person's status. And I think that a lot of you, you're probably dealing with your name being in someone's mouth right now, or you're just paranoid that your name is in someone's mouth right now. But I also think that this could show that because the moon is also in a trine with the sun and Mercury, a lot of you are probably feeling very, very driven towards your career at the moment. Great time to apply for things. Maybe a lot of you are trying to move up in a ladder, or you're trying to get a better job, or you're trying to improve your career, or you're trying to like interview and have conversations with people. Or maybe a lot of you are curating your social media a little bit differently, you know, like your status, your resume. But for others of you, I also think that this could just be important meetings and conversations with higher ups where things are being addressed. And it could even be that you're not necessarily involved just because of the nature of Scorpio, you know, it's like very secretive. So I definitely think that I feel like a lot of you will go into this month and learn something confidential that maybe you would not have known had this conversation not happened. You know, like I just think that this week secrets will be revealed in some way, shape, or form, or you'll finally get news back from something. I don't know what that something could be, but I would imagine it's related to like somebody that you are one-on-one with, like a client, somebody that you are trying to interview, or something like that. And I also want to say that it could be related to family just because of the nature of Cancer and whatnot. So it could be related to like money and like secrets and like trauma being revealed. So I also want to say that in the second half of the week that the moon will be in Sagittarius. It will trine Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter, but then oppose Mars and Uranus. Now that opposition to Mars and Uranus, girl, be careful of your money in the second half of the week. Don't be impulsively spending. Maybe this could just be like when Apple decides to take $21.99 out of your bank account for no reason. This could also just be that a lot of you are paying off a debt or something, or maybe it could be that you are having to like expend large amounts of money. You know, Gemini again, so like I said, it could be transportation related, but it could be like online stuff. It could be like having to fix an appliance. It could be having to repair something. But the trine to Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter definitely leads me to believe that it is in the greater good of something. It could be for the greater good of your home. It could be for the greater good of your family. Maybe some of you are just like expending money in order to improve your living situation and make it more comfortable in a way. But overall, I definitely think that the second half of the week, it will be kind of inadvertent, like you're having to take care of something and you don't want to, but you may not necessarily see how much it's actually benefiting your daily life and how necessary it actually is. So I think that this second half of the week is kind of like, man, I don't want to spend money on that, but I have to, and it makes your life better in some way, shape, or form. For you, we have the Eight of Coins. I definitely feel like this is speaking to the moon in your 8th house throughout the second half of the week, and also the moon in Scorpio. The harder you work and the more that you work to connect with people and the more effort you put into what you're doing right now, the more you will get out of it. And that's also so your chart ruler in Virgo. I definitely think that this week will be a major opportunity for you to catch up on things and get some work done and repair some things that have been faulty or like, you know, broken in some way, shape, or form. So I guess the name of the game this week is to just like take your time. Slow and steady wins the race, but know that how much effort you put in is exactly how much what you'll get out of it. Reap what you sow. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Taurus. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye, I love you. Okay, now moving on to Gemini rising. So hello, Gemini. If you're seeing this, this will be a horoscope for July 20th through July 26th. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like this week for you will kind of just feel like, all right, you know, that kind of happened. And I say this because a lot of the aspects that we're gonna see this week aren't really forming crucial aspects to your ascendant. Let me get into it. So Mercury will be stationing direct, which will be very important because that's your chart ruler, and it's stationing direct in your 2nd house. So galore when it comes to your sense of security within yourself, but also your financial situation, especially if you've been doing stuff like buying furniture, investing in your home, or if you have been interacting more emotionally with your money, so like emotionally spending. I actually noticed that this Mercury retrograde has prohibited you all from spending a lot. I think that with Mercury opposing your 8th house and with Saturn being in its unhappy place, I've actually noticed that. Oh, and Saturn's in your 11th house of like hopes and dreams. So I've just been noticing that for a lot of you all, you have been a little bit more conservative with your resources, being more careful, and being a little bit more protective over your energy and defending yourself more or being more to yourself in some way, shape, or form. And sorry, I got a text. But I think that's like a very, very good thing. And Sorry, that like really distracted me. But I think that's a good thing because I think that a lot of you were giving a little bit too much. I also think that being in Cancer, there has been a significance when it comes to your relationship with the mother figure, with the opposite gender, and your interactions with them in terms of how you garner self-worth, confidence, and how you are investing in these people. And Mercury has rulership over your fourth house, so I definitely believe that this is in some way, shape, or form related to your living situation. And then, okay, so Mercury's going direct on the 23rd, and this is playing off the new moon in Cancer last week. So I think that a lot of you have set a lot of new intentions with everything that I have just mentioned. On the 22nd, the sun will move into Leo, and then on the 23rd, the same day that Mercury goes direct, it will come into a square with Chiron. And this is in your third house, and then Chiron's in your 12th house. So I think that this is a lot of subconscious healing. Pay attention to your dreams and pay attention to things that make you feel like nervous, because I think that Chiron in your 12th house in Taurus is also the kind of the catalyst for like maybe a lot of you are being more frugal around this time, or a lot of you are being a bit more careful or more conscious of the way that you're expending resources, especially when it comes to like your bed, and like, because that's what the 12th house makes me think of. Heal your sleep. Make sure you are getting plenty of sleep around this time. Get plenty of rest. Taurus don't play about his sleep. The 12th house don't either. So if you're thinking about it, invest in your bed sheets. Point blank period. Invest in your sleep in any way that you can, in your mental health. Security and stability will come from your spirituality and your mental health. So that's what I kind of feel like this whole situation with Mercury in Cancer has also been about, is that making sure that you are taking care of yourself, and that will naturally manifest. Like, you can't buy that, you know, like you can't, obviously money helps. Like, let's not even like play around the bush and be like, oh, you know, no, it helps. But at the same time, if you give an idiot $5 billion and you tell them to take care of themselves, you know, it's a little bit hard. So that's my piece of advice to you for this week. But the sun going into your third house is really nice because, you know, the sun is at home here, and the third house is pretty lit for you because you're familiar with it. So I think that there will be a light shone on the habits that you actively engage in. The sun takes pride, it wants to entertain, it wants to have fun. So this makes me feel like a lot of you are probably investing or taking conscious action to have more fun in your day-to-day life, being more creative, being more self-expressive, whatever that may look like for you. And I think that the sun is paving a path here because your chart ruler Mercury will be moving into the sign at the beginning of August. So I think that this will be a very great time to do things like, maybe a lot of you are going out to eat a lot more, watching movies, going to concerts. And the third house is very local, so a lot of you could be seeing that there's a lot of local events coming up, you know. And the moon in the beginning of the week will also start out in Scorpio, which also leads me to believe that this week will be kind of like you're being like tugged around, because the moon will square Pluto, it will square Jupiter, and it will trine the sun and Mercury. So I think that the beginning of the week, you're kind of just being thrown around places, and you're having to consciously weave in ways to have fun and enjoy yourself. I think that the moon in Scorpio, especially with Mars in your first house, a lot of you are probably very, very, very busy. At the start of the week, you're probably having to do things like make phone calls, communicate with people, go here, go there, lift heavy things. Not all of you have to lift heavy things, but you know what I'm saying? You're having to hire people, get services done, and maybe for some of you in the beginning of the week, you're trying to get somebody to help you with something. So it's kind of like, oh, like I won't be home, like can you like water my plants for me? Water my plants for me? Can you, you know, watch my dog for me, feed my dog or something, you know? Or like, hey, like I'm going out for a concert these 2 days, can you please, you know, like empty the dehumidifiers while I'm gone or something like that, you know? So a lot of you could be going through a lot of stuff like that, where you're trying to coordinate with people and make your schedule a little bit easier on you because you're doing something else, and it's because it's something that you wanted to do, you know? I also think that the third house influence, this is a great time to do things like writing. Maybe a lot of you are wanting to, and especially because also Jupiter is in opposition with Pluto at the moment, and you will see the sun do the same thing in the next week. So I very much see that this will be related to like a third and ninth house theme. So this could be related to school for a lot of you. A lot of you could be applying for things, And this is also just showing like your mind. And because the sun is shining light, I think that a lot of you could be shining light on your thoughts, and it could be related to like a ninth house situation. So it's like your higher beliefs, your philosophies, and maybe your sense of travel. So maybe you're seeing some sort of truth about your local area or about something that's like smaller, and you're seeing like the bigger picture more, and you're wanting to expand upon that, or you're wanting to expand upon what you have right next to you, as opposed to, you know, like venturing out into the unknown all the time. But the second half of the week, the moon will be in Sagittarius, and it will form a doozy of aspects. It will form an opposition with Mars and Uranus, and it will also trine Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter. So very nice energy. I think that the second half of the week, a lot of you could be traveling to see somebody, or somebody could be traveling to see you. I think that this could be support from partners. I think that with the support, or the trine to Saturn in your 11th, this could be like social circles. But I also feel like this could be that a lot of your setting intentions and philosophies when it comes to your partnerships and social circles. A lot of you could also be setting intentions to, like I said, go back to school, learn something, become certified in something, or to just step into some sort of like a new experience. But definitely with that opposition to Mars and Jupiter, be wary of like conflicts, and I don't know why, but the word misconduct appeared in my mind, but like issues of communication, contracts, and paperwork. So it's like, if you're signing anything this week, make sure you pay attention to the fine print, and make sure you look out for like word games and stuff, because I think that Mercury still being in Cancer could suggest that people are being a little bit emotional around this time. And I think that the second half of the week will be like innovative solutions and conversations being had in order to fix a situation. I also think that this is just like a reflection of your mind. Keep yourself busy with your hands. Don't be no doom scrolling or something like that, okay? Crochet, knit, paint, play with slime or Play-Doh or kinetic sand. Ooh, for you, we have the Ace of Coins. I think it's interesting that, okay, it will be very out of the blue, and I don't know why, but these mountains remind me of like Yosemite Valley. So a lot of you could be being handed to work more of like nature, or you could be like going out a little bit more like to adventure and like travel and see new things. So it's kind of like, once again, it kind of goes back to like wanting to expand upon like your local area and what you're familiar with. Like, you don't know where you're going if you don't know where you're from. And I think that this could also just be like new money. Maybe like with the new moon that just happened, a lot of you are getting some sort of like a payback, or like a new job, or like a new like side hustle or something. It will be very passive. You know, Ace of Coins is very small beginnings, but I definitely feel like this is showing that a lot of you are planting a seed with Mercury going direct, and you will start to see it grow over the course of the next few months here. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Gemini. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. Okay, now moving on to Cancer rising. So hello, Cancer rising. If you're seeing this, this will be your horoscope for July 20th through July 26th. I've written down everything that I want to talk about. And I think that you will appreciate this week a lot, because Mercury will finally be stationing direct after a long 2-3 weeks. And it will be stationing direct on the 23rd. And for you, this is obviously in your first house. And I strongly feel like this plays off of the new moon in Cancer that we had seen last week. I think that these two are working in tandem here. Mercury has rulership over your 3rd house and your 12th house. I hope that you all have done the work necessary when it comes to your sleep schedule, your daily habits, but also the way that you're communicating with people, conversations that need to be had, interviews that need to be attended, and information that you need to learn. Cancer is about home, deep emotional rooted patterns. Your mother, it is about security. So I definitely get the sense that a lot of you will have some clear answers this week in terms of what it is that you need to do in terms of knowledge and information in order to make yourself feel more secure, feel more at home, but to also maybe do any necessary introspection when it comes to your relationship with your family and your mother. And with the new moon that happened in your first house, I think that a lot of this could be conducive to your body, your health, and your sense of well-being. And I also think that this could be related to how you integrate fun and enjoyment and pleasure into your schedule, because the moon will be in Scorpio at the beginning of the week. And so a lot of this is happening under like a scorpionic vibe. So there could be like obsessive or like deeply transformational themes going on at the start of the week. And you could be feeling emotional. Like, that's just the truth. And I want to say that because the moon will be in your 5th house, this could also be related to just like having fun. This could be related to like putting yourself out there a little bit more. This could be related to like creativity, your sense of self-expression. And since Scorpio can sometimes be a little bit provocative, or it can be, you know, inclined to do the things and say the things that nobody else is really wanting to do or talk about, a lot of you could be wanting to break down a wall in some way. And maybe this could be related to your family or your social circles and your friend group, since when the moon's in the 5th house, it's opposing your 11th. And excuse me, when this is exaggerated because when the moon's in Scorpio, it will also be in a square with Jupiter and Pluto. Jupiter being in your 2nd house and Pluto being in your 8th house. And so while the moon's in your 5th house, it is forming a T-square. And so I think that for a lot of you, this could be related to your money and your values. And I feel like this kind of boils down to what I was just saying about, you know, like your sense of enjoyment, your self-pleasure, and what it is that you're willing to do or say that others aren't willing to. And for you, this is going to be exaggerated by this T-square, because it kind of seems like this is where your values are. This is like what you think is important in order to transform and help others, but to also validate your own pride, your own ego. Mind you, Jupiter and Pluto will be in an opposition throughout the course of like the next few days, probably like throughout the next 2 weeks, you'll be feeling this opposition. But I think that this week and the beginning of next week, you'll be feeling it especially strongest, because it will be at an exact opposition. And I very much get the vibe that this could be related to your money, but it could also be, okay, so like what I'm thinking is that Jupiter wants to expand, and in Leo, it wants to expand fun, going out, self-expression, art, children, creativity. 2nd house is values and resources. So these are what you are investing your resources and values into and what you think is important. And then Pluto is the planet of trauma, transformation, destruction, bringing things down that must, and it is in your 8th house. And Pluto is very powerful here. And then, you know, Aquarius is about your hopes, your dreams, your desires. Audience, it is about social circles. So how these two things play off in your life is probably manifesting in what you believe to be important and what it is. It could be manifesting in your money as well, especially if you feel like the way that you're spending, or if the way that you are investing yourself, involving yourself, is not necessarily congruent to what it is that you actually want to do, which kind of goes back to the moon being in the 5th house. So it's like in the beginning of the week, you're wanting to be deep, you're wanting to be sensual, you're wanting to be passionate, but this may be going against the values of others, or it may be kind of going against any like social norms or what you've been conditioned to believe. And so it's like your importance and what you think is essential will be changing, especially because this moon in Scorpio will be in a trine with the Sun and Mercury. And right before Mercury stations direct on the 22nd, Leo season will start. So the Sun will move into Leo, and it will square Chiron the same day that Mercury goes direct. So there's a lot of healing to be done here when it comes to your sense of security and your comfort and your hopes and your dreams, especially financial dreams, but also when it comes to stability in your friend groups and the people that you want to connect with. I would imagine this is especially important because since Venus is in Virgo at the moment, a lot of you may be serving friend groups, or a lot of you may be putting conscious effort into being there for other people or like your community in some way. So a lot of you could be doing things where you're being actively involved and engaged in something. And I think that the moon in Scorpio, it will be easier to align yourself in the sense that like, okay, like what it is when I'm doing for people, it's like what I want to do, you know? So I think that a lot of you could be like donating or giving to charity or doing things that you want to do. And obviously that could be in like a bigger sense, especially if you own like a business or something. But I also feel like this could be within your own social circles and your own immediate tight-knitted groups. And then in the second half of the week, the moon will be in Sagittarius, and it will be in your 6th house. It will trine Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter, but it will oppose Mars and Uranus. That opposition to Mars and Uranus, I really want you to pay attention to, because I've been noticing that for a lot of Cancer risings. Mars in your 11th, in your 12th house has been making you very, very nervous and very skittish, and like reluctant, like your mind's going like a mile per minute, and the 12th house wants to hide things. So a lot of you have been trying to conceal your thoughts or conceal your mind, and like Mars is related to your 5th and your 10th house. So it could be related to your career, it could be related to your future, your long-term goals and ambitions and what it is that you want to do. So a lot of you may be trying to stay private, but you know, I kind of feel like this is a good time to maybe indulge in like a therapist, or like not like in a rude way. I feel like when people say like get therapy, it's like sounds bad, but like, you know, maybe you can find somebody who can assist you with this. So maybe a lot of you could be investing in like an internship or a mentor or somebody who can just kind of help you, especially since Jupiter's in your 2nd house, and like the 2nd house is our investments and Jupiter is like higher teachings. So a lot of you could be getting higher teachings from children or people who are famous and have influence. And then with the moon trining all these planets, I think that there is an opportunity for a lot of you all to get assistance from somebody, especially like an older person. Sagittarius does make me think of like in-laws, so maybe some of you are hitting up people in your family who you don't frequently speak to in order to receive guidance or assistance. But this could also just be that a lot of you are wanting to explore and invest in your routine and your responsibilities in a new way so that they allow you more freedom and a little bit more fun. But just look out for that opposition to Mars and Uranus, because I think that this week may start off, it may start very like intense, but then as the week progresses, you may be feeling a little bit more skittish and a little bit more like, oh, like I want to like let go, I want to be a little bit more free. There could also be a lot of burdens or some business to take care of when it comes to institutions and like churches or monasteries and higher education, so like colleges. Yeah, for you, we get the 10 of coins. I definitely feel like this is like a very good thing. I think that this week will be kind of like an in-your-face sort of thing. I especially think that since Jupiter's now out of your 1st house, a lot of you have a clearer grasp of what it is that you need to tend to it and what is worth your time and your energy and your responsibility. Sorry, I don't know why it keeps like not focusing. I feel like Hall, I don't know. But I think that the 10 of coins is saying that a lot of you are this week are honoring tradition. You are honoring what is already in place and probably standing by a belief or a philosophy, and it is bringing you abundance and success in some way, shape, or form. But overall, Cancer, I just think that this week will be like a joy ride. I honestly feel. Express yourself to the fullest extent and be you without any apology. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Cancer. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. All right, now moving on to Leo rising. So hello, Leo rising. If you're seeing this, this would be your horoscope for July 20th through July 26th. And honestly, Leo, so anyways, on the 22nd, Leo season officially starts. So if you happen to be a Leo sun, happy birthday. But I definitely think that this week for you will be the beginning of a lot of good things, because I've noticed that the retrograde in your 12th house has been difficult. It has really impacted your self-worth. It has impacted your routines. It has impacted your financial, situation. And it has also, really rearranged how it is that you approach your hopes and dreams and what it is that you want. I think that this retrograde really made you all think long-term about your sense of security, your home, where you want to live, and what it is that you want to accomplish. So that's why I'm saying that you will feel like good about this week, because what we're going to see here is that on the 23rd, Mercury will station direct, but then the day before, the sun will move into Leo and then square Chiron on the day that Mercury stations direct. So Chiron's in your 10th house, and I feel like this is very congruent to what I was just saying about a lot of you are getting a lot more serious about your long-term goals and what it is that you want to accomplish. And since Chiron is in a Venus ruled sign and Venus is in your 2nd house, I think that a lot of you are feeling, like building yourself up, like, no, like I'm good enough to have what I want, or a lot of you could just be trying to build yourself up in order to make more money, be more stable, be more secure, and to possibly make the better investments in your life at the moment, especially when it relates to your health and your well-being. And I think that the sun moving into your 1st house will be really nice. The sun brings life. It brings, it's like what the plants need. It's what we need. We need to go outside. We need sunlight, is good. And so I think that in your first house, it will be shining light on your body, on your well-being, on your vitality. And I think that a lot of you will be feeling very refreshed and very rejuvenated throughout, the sun moving through your first house, especially with all of the work that you have done with planets moving through your 12th house, and it will square Chiron. And then planets like Mercury are still in your 12th house. So I think that a lot of you are just moving in a way where it's like you are very much more conscious of your subconscious. So I it just makes me think of like high priestess vibes, where things that you weren't originally aware of, you are aware of now, and you are using it to bring yourself light and vitality, and your motivations and what it is that you want to accomplish are very different. I also think, like Leo is just about playtime. It's about going gambling. When I think of Leo risings, I think of y'all being like, it's summer, like you're going outside, you're dating 3 people at once, like going to the casino, like learning a new hobby, playing a sport, going just like minding your own business, doing what you want to do, being hydrated and working on yourself and going to the gym and whatnot, None of these things could resonate with you, but the point is that I feel like this week will be the beginning of you all taking self-care, your boundaries, and your body and persona a lot more seriously. And I think that you will really like that because all y'all want to do is focus on yourself. So this is an opportunity for you too, especially since we just had that new moon in your 12th house. So 12th house could also be like spiritual and mental health. So a lot of you could be tackling it from that angle. And in the beginning of the week, the moon will be in Scorpio and it will come into a square with Pluto and Jupiter. So I think that with Jupiter and Pluto being in opposition, it's highlighting a lot of burdens and responsibilities and traumas, but also revealing a lot of unhealthy dynamics and allowing you to develop new philosophies on that based on your interpersonal relationships. I think that there's a lot going on here when it comes to you versus other people and also your beliefs and what it is that you want in relationships. I think that a lot of you could be, like breaking free, like Jupiter wants freedom. It wants to, like do its own thing, and like Pluto can like restrict it via trauma. So it kind of makes me feel like a lot of you are breaking away from certain relationships and dynamics because these people, or there are situations around you where they are trying to use unhealthy and manipulative tactics to tie you down. But I think that Jupiter in your first house and now it's the sun, it's kind of giving like, no, like I'm going to break free and I want to do what I want to do. You know what I'm saying? And then it will also be in a trine with the sun and Mercury. So this is like literally right before Jupiter, or excuse me, the sun will move into Leo. But I very much get the vibe that the moon in Scorpio trining the sun and Mercury in Cancer before the sun moves. It's so giving like emotional boundaries. I think that a lot of you are creating space between you and other people in some way, shape, or form, or a lot of you are fortifying your home, especially like Moon and Scorpio in your 4th house. So it's like Scorpio. It's making me think of like shedding a skin, and Scorpio can also be about money. It can also be about other people's resources. So some others of you could also be organizing money between you and a family member. You could be receiving money from a family member, or a lot of you could be paying a family member back, and it could be related to like your living situation in your home, but it could also be related to something else. That's just what I think is Cancer. And then in the second half of the week, the moon will be moving through Sagittarius, your 5th house. So this will emphasize your children and self-expression, but it will also come into an opposition with Mars and your Uranus. I chalk this up to the fact that I very much see that a lot of you all could be breaking free from something, or a lot of you all could be kind of going through like a tiff, because the moon and Sag in the 5th house, like that is so like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. I want to be free. I want to be happy. I want to go to the places I want to go, even if nobody else wants to go. And then the 11th house is so like, no, like you got to do this, or like you got to be an audience and whatnot. So I think that a lot of you could be exploring an interesting dynamic between you and like a social circle and like your hopes and your dreams. And I like the trine to Saturn and Neptune and Jupiter in your 1st and your 9th house. So this is forming like a grand fire trine in your chart. And I think that there will be like a beautiful opportunity to achieve freedom, and for a lot of you all to get accepted into like I noticed that a lot of Leo risings are taking their education more seriously. A lot of you could also be wanting to travel more, invest in property, or just being a little bit more courteous about your beliefs and your relationship with higher institutions. So it's kind of like, I feel like with that opposition to Mars in your 11th house, a lot of you are having to kind of go by word of the mouth, or a lot of you are having to be a little bit more local. This makes me think that a lot of you are wanting to be on more one-on-one situations. Like you're probably not wanting to get involved with like a system in some way. Like you're wanting to establish autonomy and independence from something in some way. And I think that this will start with like, your sense of freedom and maybe where you live. And it could also be related to your responsibilities and your health, since Saturn does rule your 6th house. But I very much think that a burden or some sort of responsibility will be lifted off your shoulders. And it may be because you have to ask around because, you know, like Mars opposed the moon. But I think that this will be like a good thing. I think that the second half of the week, it just may be a little bit hectic, but I do see people coming through because you're getting support from them. But I think that this is a time where it's like, if you're wanting support, like you need to ask for it, like you need to talk to people and you need to request it and make those moves, because Venus is in your 2nd house and Venus rules your 3rd house. So it's like Venus is like, you know, it's in Virgo and it's like service, help, assistance. But the 3rd house initiates things, you know, it needs to talk about it. It's a sextile to your ascendant, you know? So I very much think that good things can happen this week for you, Leo, but only if you're willing to have those conversations and bring up to people. And I think that this is just like a great time to apply for things, resubmit things, and whatnot. I also think that this weekend will be really fun for you. Yeah, for you, we have the Knight of Swords. Girl, what was I just saying? Speak up. Say what you need to say, okay? I know your Libra 3rd house is like, I don't want to, you know, like... But be diplomatic. You know what needs to be said and you know what you want to say. Don't be indecisive and coy about it because you know what you want the message to be. You just don't want to come off wrong. Don't be afraid of that. It is other people's jobs to ask questions when they are confused and whatnot. Say your piece, get your 2 cents, and do what you need to do, because otherwise you may run into issues later. But yeah, I also think that news could be coming towards you very quickly this week. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Leo. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated. And if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. I love you. Okay, now moving on to Virgo rising. So hello, Virgo rising. If you're seeing this, this will be a horoscope for July 20th through July 26th. Praise. Okay. I'm not gonna lie, Virgo, I actually think, okay, so I'm excited for you because Mercury is going to be stationing direct in your 11th house on the 23rd. I'm excited, but at the same time, I do feel like this retrograde was very introspective for you, and I feel like it brought a lot of good things towards you, and it's probably helped you realign a lot. And I love that because now that Jupiter's in your 12th house, it very much seems like a lot of you are in this vibe of like, I want to do what I want to do. I want to be free and I want to be happy and I want to be where I want to be. And now that Mercury retrograded and is finishing up in your 11th house, it's kind of like now you're thinking more long term, but in a way that where you're able to feel more secure and more happy. So I think that Mercury stationing direct, like we was trying to have Mercury station direct. Let's not lie. But I think that for you, it has brought upon a lot of good things. And I really want you to finish up Mercury in Cancer by engaging in the things that maybe you weren't able to do before. In the sense of like your hopes and your dreams and like what you envision for yourself in the future. Because I definitely think that with Saturn having moved through your 7th house, that your life probably got completely rearranged because of your relationships. Excuse me, and not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but now that the dust has sort of settled in that sector of your life, I feel like this is a great opportunity for a lot of you all to kind of recalibrate and get back to the basics of what it is that you truly love and what makes you feel at home and comfortable. And this is really highlighted because the sun will be moving through your 12th house, so it'll move into Leo on the 22nd, and then the day after, the sun will square Chiron, and this is also the same day that Mercury was stationed direct. So it definitely seems like the beginning of the week entails something about like healing, and Chiron's in your 9th house, so I feel like a lot of this could be related to like your higher beliefs and your philosophies, and maybe you're wanting to travel, and especially because Jupiter rules your 4th house, for a select few of you, you may be able to go on a trip or do something or be somewhere that you always wanted to go but weren't able to because of your family or something. So I think that a wish is being fulfilled, you know, like Mercury in the 11th house, like 11th house is like wish fulfillment. So I think that something that you've been wanting for a very long time will be granted, but with Jupiter in your 12th, it will require you to live somewhere new, do something you've never done before, step into a completely new experience. And because Leo is about like inner child and happiness, this is a part of you that is hidden from you. And so I think that now that Jupiter and the sun are here opposing Pluto in your 6th house, it's probably going against like the responsibilities and the ideas and the social conceptions that you are used to. So I see kind of like a push and pull here where a lot of you may be going through a conflicting time where it's like, well, I want to do this, but I don't know if it's like acceptable. I want to do this, but I don't know if my family would be okay with it. I want to do this, but you know, it's kind of like you naturally have a lot of inhibitions, Virgo. And I think that this is one of those weeks where you'll start to see that because it's like you clearly want something, but you're like, I think a lot of you have already said F it and just moved forward with it. A lot of you, I know, like I've been mentioning this nonstop, are traveling and like moving somewhere completely different for like school and stuff. So I think that if that's you, a lot of you are probably unpacking some of the emotions that come with this. But for others of you, since Pluto does rule your third house of your mind, I think that this is a lot of you just like sorting through a lot of information. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you are trying to file something or if you're trying to have conversations, but it could also just be that you're sort of at odds with yourself in terms of like, oh, like I don't know if I should be doing this, or like is this the right decision, you know? But I want to say my best piece of advice to you is try not to ask people for their opinions too much. And I think that you already know this, but I want to reiterate for confirmation for some of you, because Mercury in the 11th house is very prone to like asking everyone their opinion. So take that for what it is, especially since Venus is also in your first house, and Venus wants to be liked, Venus wants to be loved, Venus likes to please. And in Virgo, it's kind of like exaggerated. So a lot of you could be having to be of service to people at the moment or help people. And since Venus rules your ninth and your second house, it could be because of like your values that you're doing it. And it could be related to like a higher institution or corporation that you're having to be of service and be of assistance in some way, shape, or form. But I think that this is all very conducive to what it is that you want to do. I also think that a lot of you could just be developing new philosophies on developing your health. And in the beginning of the week, the moon will start out in Scorpio. It will square Pluto and Jupiter, which definitely leads me to believe that there will be a lot of mishaps in your schedule and what it is that you're wanting to do. I'm not going to lie, Virgo. Don't expect the first half of this week to go the way that you want it to. And you're kind of like, oh, you know, but I definitely think that with the moon coming into a square with Pluto in your sixth house, it's so given like having to like take care of something that you weren't really predicting on. And you know, Mars is in Gemini in your 10th house, so it could be related to your job, or it could be related to your career or something of that nature, but it could be something else. It could be siblings, it could be relatives, where you're having to kind of like mediate and have conversations with people, and you're probably being thrown in the middle of things in some way, shape, or form. So this could just be that a lot of you are having to mediate. But the nice thing is though that the moon will be in a trine with the sun before it moves into Leo, and it will also trine Mercury. So it's like coming, like a support system is coming through. Like if you reach out for help, if you talk to people, the right people, you will receive assistance. And obviously I'm not saying like, you know, I'm kind of contradicting myself because I just said like, oh, don't ask too many people. But it's like Cancer is very like quality over quantity when it comes to the people that it's around. So I want you to embrace that. Don't ask a bunch of people. Ask like one or two people that you know will hold like a good opinion and a good like something like valuable, like value systems that align with you, you know? And then I also think that a lot of you could just be moving around the beginning of the week, driving, going here, going there, phone calls, having to talk to people, your phone blowing up and stuff, especially with Mars in Gemini. I think that a lot of you could be putting in effort towards like applications and interviews and whatnot. And then in the second half of the week, the moon will be moving through Sagittarius. It will oppose Mars and Uranus. So this will once again exaggerate dynamics between you and your family. So I really want you to keep an eye out for that, especially siblings, in-laws, and like relatives. Maybe not necessarily your parents, but like people who are related to them, your own siblings and stuff. So I would just say keep an eye out for that. I think that there could be something going on in that sector of your life. And this could also just be that your career situation is somehow being impacted by your living situation, or maybe even a financial situation, because Mars does have rulership over your 8th house and Saturn's there. So a lot of you may be having to work for something. Maybe you're trying to get like a payout from your job or something, or maybe like your living situation is like no longer serving like your job or something like that. You know, like work-life balance is being revised this week, but I really like that the moon will be in a trine with Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter. Jupiter in your 12th, Saturn in your 8th, so it's like unexpected support coming through. But I also kind of see this as like fighting for something. I think that now that Saturn's in your 8th house, it's like you're fighting for like your independence. You're fighting to be alone and more self-sustainable and not have so many people rely on you so much. So I think that a lot of you are kind of like operating off that wavelength where you're wanting to establish some sort of like autonomy, like I said, or like independence in your life. But I also think that this could be like money coming through, or maybe there's something going on with like a family member, especially like your father. So like, especially if you've been having to like take care of a father figure, or if there's been like health stuff going on in the family, maybe you're getting like a payout for something. Sagittarius, it makes me think of like bigger institutions, like, you know, like it makes me think of like What is that called? Like Social Security. It makes me think of like insurance, or like insurance companies. That's what that makes me think of. It also makes me think of like immigration stuff. So a lot of you could be dealing with something like that with your family and having to like travel, visas. So a lot of you could be dealing with something of that nature as well, especially if you're dealing with your children, or if there are children involved, since Saturn rules your fifth house. But it's kind of like something that you're fighting for, something that you're wanting to do, or you deem as important. Or it could be that, like, you know, you see it is important for your family and like you're able to help, so you're going to help them. So a lot of you could be dealing with something like that, especially if you're wanting some sort of like a payout, or if you're owed money, or if you owe money to a bigger system, and that's kind of being sorted out in some way with your family, or with like a higher institution or system. Yeah, for you, we have the Queen of Swords. A lot of you could be dealing with a Queen of Swords this week. So like a Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. I think that this is also you. The Queen of Swords does not sugarcoat things. She says what she needs to say, and she doesn't care if it hurts people's feelings. In fact, she would rather hurt people's feelings than be a liar or not be completely true to herself. And so she's not opposed to doing things the way that need to be done. You know, like she will talk to you and not play in your face, and, you know, be on that no BS stuff. And I feel like this is very much what you're trying to emulate, or this is the kind of energy that you need to seek out in your life, and it will probably be coming towards you. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Virgo. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. I love you. Okay, now moving on to Libra rising. So hello, Libra rising. If you're seeing this, this will be a horoscope for July 20th through July 26th. Also, I was thinking about doing the thumbnail in the intro, but this lighting is so fire, and I just fixed my hair, so I'm just gonna... I like this. I like this. But I need to be in like the center, you know? Like, don't be afraid to... Okay. I just wanted to post it for thumbnail real quick. I don't know if I'm going to choose that one or the other one. Anyways, Libra, so this will definitely be a pretty nice week for you. Or, okay, I'm not saying that it's just going to be an easy, fun week. I am saying, however, now that Jupiter is in your 11th house, on the 22nd, the sun will also move into your 11th house, and I feel like this is kind of like the highlight for you. And then the day after, Mercury will station direct. And so on the 22nd, the sun moves into Leo, and then the next day it will come into a square with Chiron, and then on that same day that it squares Chiron, Mercury will station direct, and this is in your 10th house. So I definitely feel like there's a lot of stuff going on when it comes to opportunities, when it comes to your social networks, and also things going on with your career, like I said, but also like friend groups. So that could be important to you, because I noticed that every time stuff happens in the 11th house, a lot of you Libra risings schedule stuff. So a lot of you host get-togethers, go to parties, you know, it's summer, so maybe y'all go into like a barbecue this week. And I think it's interesting that Jupiter, or excuse me, I keep saying Jupiter, the sun will be in a square with Chiron, who is in your 8th house. So I think that there will be a healing opportunity for y'all when it comes to like your sense of intimacy within your friend groups. But I also see this as like healing in terms of support. That's what that makes me think of, especially like monetary support. So a lot of you could be receiving like financial aid from like a group or like an institution or foundation. So especially if you're looking for like funding from like a union or something, or maybe even something with like child support, since that's what Leo makes me think of, like children. A lot of you could be receiving some sort of like a financial support from that, and it could be like a very healing process for you. And then on... And I feel like Mercury stationing... Sorry, I'm like all over the place. Mercury stationing direct, I feel like, is playing off of the new moon in Cancer that we saw last week. And for you, this is happening in your 10th house. So because Mercury rules your 12th and your 9th house, this makes me feel like there's a lot of stuff that has been completed when it comes to applications, when it comes to being certified, when it comes to being applicable for certain careers and your jobs. So I think that for a lot of you, this could also be straightening out something when it comes to your status in work and career. And because it's in Cancer, it could be related to your family, it could be related to your mother, and it could be like, you know, if it's not even your mother, it could be that you have been mothering your career in some way, you know, like like protecting it, nurturing it, and giving your career what it needs from you in order for you to thrive, in order for you to develop a more secure reputation. And you could be doing so through 9th and 12th house themes, so like spirituality, realigning yourself, meditation, alone time, but also perhaps maybe getting back to the basics of like bigger institutions and higher education. But I also want to say that the moon will be in Scorpio at the beginning of the week, so it will square Pluto and Jupiter, and Pluto's in your 5th house and Jupiter is in your 11th house, so it will be forming a T-square in your chart from your 2nd house. So it's like, I think a lot of this will boil down to your values, and because it's in Scorpio, it could be related to like other people's belongings or resources. A lot of you could be receiving support or you could be giving support to others. So I think that that is just like, there's a lot of polarizing stuff going on when it comes to money, values, and resources in the beginning of the week. And then the moon will trine the sun and Mercury right before the sun moves into Leo. And I really like this energy for you because I feel like this is another opportunity for a lot of you to communicate. I definitely think that with Mercury stationing direct too, it could be that a lot of you are announcing something or you're receiving some sort of announcement. So this could be reflective of like receiving like a big break or like a big opportunity. And it could be that you are like traveling, you know, like stepping into a new horizon or like going somewhere that you've never been before. And because the sun's moving into 11th house, I feel like the 11th house can be a little bit hypothetical because it's like dreaming, it's thinking about the future. So it could be that a lot of you are thinking about your future when it comes to your sense of vitality, your fun, and realigning yourself with this sector of your life. And because it's opposing Pluto in your 5th house in Aquarius, it could be that a lot of you are feeling a little bit pulled when it comes to what you want, what others might want, you know? And so I think the best way to put this, Libra, is that a lot of you are really just juggling back and forth in your life in some way where it's like you're deciding what it is that you want to do with your future and what it is that makes you happy. But this could also be related to your love life, your romances, and your goals in dating, especially if Saturn in Aries has brought upon like breakups or like divorces or, you know, like endings in your relationships. I think that this opposition combined with the moon in Scorpio, it's like an opportunity for a lot of y'all to just kind of like move forward. But it could also be that a lot of you are sorting out your resources versus like another person's resources. So a lot of you, this Saturn in Aries placement could still be like causing issues for you. And mind you, Saturn will be stationing retrograde soon. So I think that a lot of you are preparing right now. But the nice thing is that in the second half of the week, the moon will be in Sagittarius. And the reason why I like this for you is because it'll be sextiling your ascendant. So I think that there will be opportunities to move about and get back to your day-to-day schedule. I think that because it will, one thing I will say is that it will oppose Mars and it will oppose Uranus. So there may be unexpected things coming up of like technology, tech, communication, siblings, and it could be interrupting your daily flow in some way, shape, or form. The nice thing is that the moon will be trining Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter, so you'll be receiving assistance or there will be people kind of coming through to help. But you know, Libra, I would imagine that a lot of y'all just like to do things yourself or you don't like to inconvenience other people. So I would just say that this week may present some sort of like a frustration when it comes to your responsibilities and what is on your plate. Like you may be having to pivot and you may be having to sort of move back and forth, and it may be very frustrating. And then on the more abstract side of things, I think that a lot of you are ruminating and thinking more deeply about your sense of fun and entertainment when it comes to your dreams. Because like I'm also thinking like Leo wants to entertain and wants to be out there, and like 11th house is like, you know, like our goals and our dreams, like I keep saying. So a lot of you could be trying to start up a platform of sorts. A lot of you could be trying to step into the limelight. A lot of you could just be asserting your ego into your social circles a little bit more. And it could just be that a lot of you are working a little bit harder in your networking life in order to be around the people who better align with you. And you're wanting to connect with others on like a grander, more visceral scale. Anyways, let's pull a card. I also think that there could be a lot of news in the second half of the week. Like a lot of you could be like taking a class or like learning something or being a part of something else. It makes me think of like going to like a language learning class, you know, because with Sagittarius on your third house, it's like you're always trying to integrate foreign concepts and new ideas into your day-to-day life. Like you're always trying to learn something new, or you always want to learn something new. And so it may be that a lot of you are trying to absorb like a bigger like concept. And I think that in the second half of the week, a lot of you could be getting back to that. It's like, and it seems very, you know, like Sag, and then Jupiter is in your 11th house. So it's like learning something and like delving into something and gaining information about something that you've always wanted to learn but haven't really been able to or had the resources to. And I think that the moon in Scorpio will bring you something like that. Yeah, we get the Hierophant. Oh my gosh, I almost choked. But I definitely feel like this speaks to the fact that a lot of you could be taking classes, getting like a dream job, or applying to something. This makes it, you know, like the Hierophant honors tradition and it stays to its values. It's Taurus, and Taurus rules your 8th house. So this could be like a time of transformation and shedding your skin and really becoming a completely different version of yourself, because I think a lot of Libra risings feel very lost right now, but I think it's because you're asking yourself deeper questions and more meaning has been brought into your life since Saturn is now in your 7th house, restricting your relationships and forcing you to focus more on your own autonomy. And I think that this is like a very great thing because it's allowing you to bring more balance into your life, and it starts with your values and traditions. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Libra. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye, I love you. Okay, now moving on to Scorpio rising. So hello, Scorpio rising. If you are seeing this, this would be your horoscope for July 20th through July 26th. And excuse me, I think that this week will be the beginning of a lot of career things, because on the 22nd, we are going to see the sun move into Leo. So this will be the beginning of Leo season, and it will square Chiron on the 23rd, which is the same day that Mercury also stations direct in your 9th house. So I really like that Mercury is stationing direct in your 9th house and that the sun's moving into your 10th house, because it definitely seems like there's a lot of stuff going on when it comes to higher education, when it comes to committing to higher beliefs and ideals, when it comes to your status, your reputation, but also your career and your long-term ambitions. The sun in the highest point in your chart with Jupiter there as well definitely suggests that there is a big light being shone. And it's like, even if you aren't really trying to make big money moves right now and you're keeping it more subtle, like you are being noticed. So I think that this is a great time to put yourself out there and to garner more exposure by just doing what it is that you love. So definitely, I also think that with Jupiter ruling your 2nd house, this is having to do with your values, and it is doing like with your experiences. So I wouldn't be, and Jupiter wants to teach, so I wouldn't be surprised if you are wanting to put yourself in a position to help others or teach people, or to just relay your stories and entertain others through what it is that you have been through and what it is that you believe in and what is worth your time, your energy, and your money. And I find it interesting that Jupiter, or excuse me, the sun will be in a square with Chiron, because it definitely seems like there's a lot of healing going on when it comes to your interpersonal relationships. I feel like now that Uranus is out of your 7th house and Chiron's moving in, it's kind of like stabilizing your relationships and healing. And so it's like, for a lot of Scorpio risings, either A, y'all have just gotten spontaneously married and stuff like that, but you know, for a majority of Scorpio risings, I think that this is a moment where a lot of you are tweaking, revising, and healing your relationships, even if you are in a happy one, because Venus, your 12th house, and your 7th house ruler is in Virgo in its detriment, which shows that like a lot of you could be having uncomfortable conversations with people and saying what needs to be said and doing what needs to be done. And Venus is in your 11th house, so this could be related to like the future, especially when it comes to like health and well-being. But in the beginning of the week, the moon will be in your 1st house in Scorpio. And it will come into a square with Jupiter and Pluto in your 4th and your 10th house. So I definitely feel like this is the point where, like, the beginning of the week where a lot of you are kind of in this position of like, I don't know what I want to do with my career, or there could just be like a torn, because I think that Pluto in your 4th house is causing like a lot of stress and a lot of turmoil when it comes to your family, your home, and your personal life. But then the sun and Jupiter are so happy in your 10th house. So it could suggest that, like, remember when Ariana Granola was like, oh, those are like the best years of my life for my career, but when it came to my personal life, it was awful. So it could very much be something like that, you know, where your career is just like popping off, but then like you're going through like a divorce, you know. It's just that doesn't have, you know, for how big those things are, I would imagine that it's already ongoing, and that doesn't have to be the exact manifestation for a lot of you, but it's just that concept of where it's like you are being forced to focus on one part of your life, but then another part of your life is just sort of thriving. So I think that the moon in Scorpio will just show that there's a lot of polarity in your life right now when it comes to like balance. The nice thing is that the moon will move through Scorpio, and then as the sun moves into, before it moves into Leo, it will come in a trine. So this is like literally just like Monday and Tuesday, but the moon will trine the sun and Mercury in your ninth house. So I think that higher beliefs, philosophy, and ideals will be very much important to the beginning of the week. I also think that a lot of you could be making plans to travel, invest in real estate, but this could also just be that a lot of you are wanting to learn more about your background, because Cancer in the ninth house makes me think that there's like a lot of learning to do when it comes to your family's heritage, heritage, is that the word? Heritage, and also when it comes to ancestral lines. So a lot of you could be wanting to learn about that, or there could even be a love for like social studies and history. So a lot of you could just be delving into something like that. And Mercury has rulership over your 8th house as well as your 11th house. So this could also be related to like arts and humanities. So a lot of you could be delving into like art or architecture, or maybe even something where it's related to like psychology. And maybe even this could just be some of y'all trying to like book something with like a mentor or somebody who can help you with your goals. So I just think that a lot of you are being very calculated. That's the best way to say it. Even if you're not trying to, like I said, make big money moves, you're very, very calculated at the moment, Scorpio. And this is especially exaggerated because in the second of the week, the moon will be moving through Sagittarius, and it will oppose Mars and Uranus in your 8th house, which is very, very financial, especially if you have been wrestling with like a bigger system from money, like the IRS or like Social Security or like an insurance company, or if there has been something that is owed to you or owed to another person, especially if it's like religious. So maybe some of y'all are going back and forth with like a church or something for like a fund or money situation. And for others of you, I also think that this could just be like a challenge of like your morals and your values, especially if you are wrestling with like a health thing, because I know that and Saturn being in your 6th house and Mars being in Gemini, it's just making me think that a lot of you could also be dealing with like, okay, so this is my thought process. Like Mars is in your 8th house. The 8th house is like your reproductive organs and your hormones. So a lot of you could be trying to get medication, or a lot of you could just be trying to get a hold of some sort of treatment, or like a specific person or piece of knowledge, or even like a class or something. But for others of you, like I said, it could be something about like hospital stuff and like bills and like payments. And even that, if that not be the case, I think that this is just showing that a lot of you have a lot of like financial obligations and responsibilities in the second half of the week that you are taking care of, get them bills paid. But the nice thing though is that the moon will be in a trine with Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune, which is forming like a grand fire trine. And this is between your 6th and your 10th house. Beautiful energy. I think that this is showing that your values will be shining high. It's very conducive to the beginning of the week, where I think exposure will sort of be the name of the game. But I also feel like the moon trine Saturn, it's making me feel like, as Saturn rules your 3rd house of like the conscious responsibilities that you yourself delve into. Sorry, my window's open. It's hot. But anyways, so, you know, Saturn in the 6th house, it's making me think that a lot of you are imposing responsibilities upon yourself. A lot of you are trying to get your health together. A lot of you are trying to establish better routines. And Aries wants to be like independent. So it's like a lot of you are wanting to do so on your own, especially if you're used to always doing these things with other people, or if you're always having to do these things with other people. It's like, no, like you're engaging in these habits and routines on your own. And the moon in Sagittarius shows that you are investing in that notion via higher beliefs and knowledge, but also like furthering upon it by learning more, but also investing money into it. And then a trine to Jupiter and Jupiter in your 10th house is just kind of giving like, it's just showing through, you know, like people are noticing this about you. And the trine of Neptune could just be that it could be related to water. So maybe some of you are trying to increase fluid intake, or, you know, better your blood health, or maybe even go swimming or something like that. Especially if you have been self-soothing through things like alcohol or substances, it could be that you are trying to loosen that up in some part of your life. Yeah, we get the King of Wands. So this definitely makes me feel like it's you, TBH, because we have so much fire energy and you're like the fire sign of the water sign, Scorpio. But this makes me think that, for one, it could be that an Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius could be significant in your life around this week. But it could be that you're receiving support or sponsorship or some sort of like a merit from this person. But this could also be you, where you are being more passionate, more flamboyant, and putting yourself out there, not being afraid to do whatever it is that you want to do. Embrace that. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Scorpio. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. Okay, now moving on to Capricorn rising. So hello, Capricorn. If you're seeing this, this will be your horoscope for July 20th through July 26th. And this week is pretty important for you. We see a lot of stuff going on in your 7th house. Mainly Mercury just going retrograde, or stationing direct in your 7th house on the 23rd. And this is really playing off of the new moon that we saw last week in your 7th house. So it's like kind of going back. I totally wouldn't be surprised if people have tried to come back into your life, or if legal matters have been brought up again, or if there have just been one-on-one connections of people who you either feel like you have talked to before but haven't, or it could also just be that you are literally like getting back with somebody, or relationships are kind of being recalibrated emotionally, especially when it comes to like living situation. But I would imagine that if you have reconnected with someone, Cancer is like, it remembers, you know? So this could be with somebody who is like from like the far past, you know, like somebody from a very, very long time ago. And Mercury has rulership over your 6th house as well as your 9th house. So this could be through school, classes, higher education, traveling, but this could also be related to work and schedules. So it doesn't even have to be directly related to you. I think that a lot of you Capricorn risings, after Jupiter has moved through your 7th house, you're kind of like, low-key, y'all, like if I'm still single, like I'm not trying to do all that. But, you know, it definitely seems like a lot of you, it makes me think somebody has come back to work, you know? So like a manager or something was like pregnant and they were on like maternity leave, and this is just them coming back, and you're like, oh my gosh, hey, you know, like finally you can like take your position back. I actually hate doing both jobs, you know? So a lot of that could be going on. And Cancer is also about security. So this could be a time where a lot of you are looking for like job security, and it could be through like networking and connections, because that's what the 7th house also makes me think of. But I also think that this could be a time where a lot of you are going through with signing something. So especially if, like I said, you are in legal matters, or if you're trying to sign a lease, or if you're trying to sign a contract, or if you have been waiting to hear back from somebody for something of like an interview. Especially because in the beginning of the week, the moon will be in Scorpio, and it will trine the sun and Mercury. And this is from your 11th house. So it definitely makes you think of like going to events, or going to gatherings, concerts, or just some sort of like a party. Scorpio is very like intense and underground, and Cancer is very like homey. So this could be like an intimate setting where it's like a few people, or you're going to like a group setting with just like a few people, you know what I'm saying? But anyhow, so a lot of you could just be reconnecting with somebody, and there could just be a lot of communication between you and other people where you're just like catching up. It could even just be that a lot of y'all have been just so focused with like Saturn in your 4th house, you know, like your personal things, and this is the opportunity for a lot of you all to reconnect and like catch up with the people whom you've either fallen out with, or just haven't been able to give as much energy to, because you've been so focused on other aspects of your life. And I feel like that's kind of like the new beginning, where you are finding more balance between your burdens and responsibilities and your relationships. And on the 22nd, or excuse me, yeah, on the 22nd, the sun will move into Leo, your 8th house, and then the sun will then come into a square with Chiron on the 23rd, the same day that Mercury goes direct. So this is very financial for you all, and it feels related to children, excuse me, by the way. It feels related to children and it feels related to your finances because Chiron's in Taurus, and then the sun is in your 8th house of other people's resources, and Jupiter is here as well. So it kind of makes me think that a lot of you could be trying to expand your resources. And I think that Jupiter in the 8th is a little bit literal because Jupiter makes me think of like higher systems and foundations and institutions, and the 8th house is about like other people's resources. So a lot of you could be trying to get a fund or like a grant, or a lot of you could be going even back and forth of like a insurance company, the IRS or something. And I think that Leo could be revolving around like a childcare, so it could be revolving around that. And for a select few of you, it could also be that you're trying to do something creative for financial or material gain. But it's a little bit interesting since Jupiter does rule your 12th house of loss. So I think that on the other side of things, that this could be like a very spiritual time for you all. And a lot of you could be revising themes of like codependency and your sense of independence. And it could be related to your dating life, since that's what Leo is about. You know, like dating, taking risks, having fun. And so a lot of you could be trying to find new boundaries when it comes to how much you enjoy yourself and how much pleasure you bring into your life. And I want to say that this is exaggerated because in the beginning of the week when the moon's in Scorpio, it will also square Pluto and Jupiter. And that is between your 2nd and your 8th house. So it kind of comes down to your morals, your belief systems, your value systems, what you believe is important and worth your time, your energy, and your resources. So I feel like that's kind of like the theme that a lot of you are probably wrestling with throughout the course of this week, but also the rest of this month, where you are kind of just realizing and thinking like, like what is actually important? Like what is worth my money? What is worth my time and energy? You know, so I think that that will somehow be relevant in the beginning of the week, and it will be like a very deep thing where you are revising your traumas and thinking a little bit deeper, especially if people are being reliant on you for fun and enjoyment, you know. So it's like, do you feel like sometimes people invite you places just because like you're fun and you make the situation, you know, like better, and they're like, you're like convenient to them? Or is it like people want you around just because of your presence? You know, like do people only want you around when you're only in a good mood? Something like that. Because that's what, you know, like Leo on the 8th house makes me think of. And then in the second half of the week, the moon will be moving through Sagittarius, and it will oppose Mars and Uranus, which is definitely like a very like unpredictable energy. I think that a lot of Capricorn placements have been like going through a lot of things of like their career, and especially with Venus being in your 9th house, I feel like a lot of you could be trying to get like a job with like a bigger system or something, or a lot of you are trying to get into a specific corporate job, or a lot of you are trying to look for new jobs to like pay you more or to better your reputation, to add more to your resume. And I think that with the moon and Sag opposing Uranus and Mars in your 6th house, it definitely seems like a lot of you could be going through a lot of random changes in your work. People could be getting laid off, people could be getting hired. It could be that you are, because the 12th house is like things we've never, you know, been exposed to. So it makes me think that a lot of you could be getting into like a job or role that you never thought that you would be in and you've never heard of before. So I think that a lot of you could be receiving news and communication out of the blue, whether it be good or bad. But because Mercury is in your 7th house, I think that it would be like a very one-on-one thing or related to contracts. The nice thing is though, the moon will be in a trine with Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter, forming a grand fire trine with your 12th, your 8th, and your 4th house. Very emotional houses. And it definitely feels like a lot of you could be having like a blast from the past moment. But I also think that this could just be that a lot of you are finally getting like time alone to like travel and be somewhere, and maybe even like go somewhere that you've never been. But it also just seems like you're getting some sort of like a reprieve or like break or breather from your family. It could be that money's coming through, so you're like, oh, I can finally take a day off and do what I want to do, or something like that. Since Saturn in your 4th house has been very, very, very vicious. But overall, Capricorn, it just kind of seems like a lot of you are going through this week revising your relationships and ruminating about the past in some way. And it is both cathartic but also challenging your values and beliefs. Yeah, we have the Seeker. I think that this is the Fool card in this deck. So it definitely makes me think that there is a new beginning coming, you know? Like a lot of you are stepping into a new horizon in this Okay, in this card, in this image, there is a dog and there is mountains, and I think that's the moon. So it's like challenges, you know, there is a lot of things to overcome, and it is done so at night. It is so like night conceals things, so through your emotional experiences, so it's very inwards. And the dog suggests like a companionship and like spiritual protection from a friend. So a lot of you right now could be clinging onto or having somebody in your life who is, you know, like divinely guiding you, or you are divinely protected by their energy. So a lot of you could have like a partner in crime or like a friend right now that is really helping you a lot, and it is through like a deep emotional experience and a reformation that is evoking a lot of transformation. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Capricorn. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye, I love you. Okay, now moving on to Aquarius rising. So hello, Aquarius. If you're seeing this, this would be your horoscope for July 20th through July 26th. And the highlight of this week is definitely the sun moving into Leo. And this will be on the 22nd. Sorry, you're gonna need background noise, the window's open. But this will be on the 22nd, and it will move into your 7th house. And I've noticed that Jupiter in your 7th house has been so literal, and that there has been a lot of sudden revelations and changes and expansion in your love life, in your relationships, marriage. And I also want to say that the sun moving here is shining a light here. You know, the sun is our vitality. It is fun. It gives life to the plants, you know, it gives life to all of us. It gives us the vitamins. So it's showing that there is a lot of nutrients and that there's a lot of vitality when it comes to your interpersonal relationships and one-on-one connections. And on the 23rd, the sun will come into a square with Chiron in Taurus, which is in your 4th house. And it seems to me that through shining light on your relationships, it is also healing, but of also teasing out very deep-seated wounds in you. You know, Chiron and Taurus, like, excuse me, self-worth, material resources, and your home, your upbringing, deep emotional conditioning when it comes to your sense of confidence and value. And so I think that a lot of you will be finding a lot of vitality in your relationships, but it could also be very triggering in a way, and these two things might be coinciding to create a lot of excitement and fun. But for others of you, it may be that you're going through a major process of healing and recovering. And on the 23rd, Mercury will also be stationing direct, and this will be in your 6th house. So I think that this will be very nice for you because it's in your 6th house, and Mercury is very familiar with this house. So I think that you all have had debatably one of the better Mercury transits, because I think on one hand, a lot of you have been having to play a mother role. So whether it be literal children or whether it be having to mother your plants, mother other people, you know, Mercury has rulership over your 8th house as well as your 5th house. So it could be through like romantic partnerships and kids, but it could also be that a lot of you have been having to play like a very deeply psychological role in some way in your life in order to help others. And it could have been through like resources and money as well, since Mercury has rulership over that in your chart. But I also believe that it could just be that a lot of you have been trying to recalibrate your sense of security when it comes to your responsibilities and burden. So I wouldn't be surprised if through the retrograde you have picked up responsibilities or picked up things, because Cancer wants to be needed, you know, it wants to be wanted and required. So it definitely seems like a lot of you have probably picked up things in order to feel more security and like a weighted blanket in your day-to-day life. Or it could just be that you all have moved around your responsibilities in order to better accommodate self-nurturing and taking care of yourself and your body, which is what I hope that you've done. And then in the beginning of the week as well, the moon will be in Scorpio in your 10th house, and it will square Pluto and Jupiter. So I definitely think that this could be news getting out. I think that the beginning of the week will just be very public for some reason. A lot of you could just be announcing things, especially with your 10th house ruler Mars being in Gemini in your 5th house. So it's like news getting out, the cat being out of the bag, or you being a little bit more bold and a little bit more open and honest about what you want to do, you know, like that is the best way to put it. So it's like, oh, like I want to do this, and like this is my new career path, like, and you're letting people know. Or like, oh, I'm finally with this person, like everyone's gonna find out, you know. So it's like Gemini is like social media, and so like it just makes me think that a lot of you could be posting about things, or a lot of you could be rethinking and going through some sort of like a death or transformation when it comes to your public perception, whether it be for the good or for the worse of others. But for you, it's just like what you deem as necessary, because Scorpio on your 10th house just suggests that when it comes to your career and status, you're always wanting to resurrect but also kill things off. The nice thing is that the moon will be in a trine with the sun and Mercury, so it's giving like support from partners, it's giving support from those who you work with, it's giving support from those that you really love and care about. I think that this could be like a boss or a manager bringing you a gift. I wouldn't be surprised if like in a workplace ordeal, people could be bringing you treats or donuts or nice things, and you know, just like wanting to treat you better and like do nice things for you. I also think that this could be like the beginning of the week could be a brilliant time to do things like booking a service or getting something done for you, especially if it's like more intense. So it's like if you're doing something in the beginning of the week that's like kind of like not crazy, but you know, like in your face, like a surgery, or if you're having to do something where it's like dental work, or you know, like hormonal procedures, physical therapy, or even like something more isolating, so like therapy appointments, psychiatry appointments, or going to like institutions and places of healing like hospitals. I think that this could be a great time to do something like that, because it could be that people are being a lot more nurturing towards you during this time. So it's like Monday and Tuesday, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you receive extra support from people. Scorpio and Taurus also makes me think of banks. So a lot of you could be going to like the banks. You know when they give you like dum-dums in the envelopes? I really miss that. I think that this could be a time where just people are being a little bit more generous with you, or you could just be knowing how to get more out of a situation. So it's like, it may not even be that people are being generous with you. It could just be that you know how to manipulate the situation to get more. I won't tell though. Anyways, in the second half of the week, the moon will be moving through Sagittarius, and it will oppose Mars and Uranus. And this will be between your 11th and your 5th house, which I think this will be like a pretty vivid thing. I think a lot of you could be, first of all, don't be commenting on stuff. Don't be commenting on posts and stuff. Like, I think that a lot of y'all are looking for a fight, or like low-key, a lot of y'all could be wanting to like bicker with people. I think that Mars and Gemini low-key had y'all like starting conversations and being like, oh, is that what you really said, you know? So a lot of y'all could be like dealing with like passive aggression in your life in some way, or just like a lot of bickering and funny conversations. But the nice thing though is that the moon will be in a trine with Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter. And this will be between your 11th, your 3rd, as well as your 7th house. So I think that this could be like a double-edged sword, because on one hand, it seems like a lot of you are initiating specific conversations that you need to have, or talking to people that you want to talk to. And I particularly like the trine to Saturn. Saturn is receiving some help from the moon in the 11th house. So it's like the moon in the oh my goodness, the moon in the 11th house. So it's like emotional connections to your hopes and your dreams. And the moon rules your 6th house. So it's like when it comes to your schedules and your responsibilities. And then in Sagittarius, so traveling, higher education, learning more. So trining Saturn in your 3rd house. So it seems like you're applying to things, trying to take classes, get a mentor, or just being in an environment or being exposed to situations where you're able to garner more information. And with the trine to Jupiter in your 7th house, it could be through like affiliations, or you know, specific work connections or contracts or bindings. And I think that it will be like a very good thing for you, because opposing Mars and Uranus in your 5th house, on one hand, yes, this could give way for controversial conversations, but on the other hand, I feel like it's also giving you the opportunity to word things differently and to come up with new innovative ways to go after your dreams, especially now since your responsibilities have probably shifted around, and what you need to do now is very different than what you needed to do even just like a year ago. So I think that this is an opportunity for a lot of you all to just pivot. Yeah, we have the world. So a lot of you could literally be traveling, or I think it's so funny because I see Saturn here, so your chart ruler definitely makes me think that like there's responsibility, or there's like a burden here. So a lot of you could be having to travel for a partner, for a job, for something, and it's like kind of restrictive in a way because you're having to leave something that you're familiar with or step into a new horizon, but at the same time it is making way for a lot of fulfillment, and it is drawing a circle, and at some point what goes around comes around, and I think that a lot of you will run into a full circle moment sometime, and it starts with this week and the new moon that we just had last week. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Aquarius. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. Okay, last but not least, we have Pisces rising. So hello, Pisces. If you're seeing this, this would be your horoscope for July 20th through July 26th. And I gotta say, Pisces, I think that this week will be very beautiful for you. I think that there will be a lot of emotions running rampant, but I think that it will be conducive to the new moon that we saw last week in your 5th house, because Mercury will be stationing direct. I wrote everything down. Mercury will be stationing direct on the 23rd in your 5th house, and Mercury has rulership over your 7th and your 4th house. So like Mercury is very important in your chart. And so it definitely just seems like there is a lot of new intentions when it comes to Cancerian themes. So like motherhood, emotions, nurturing yourself, emotional security, and then 5th house, so it's like literal kids, but also having fun, your self-expression. And so it's like finding security, finding nurturing in these things. So I think that a lot of you could be indulging in habits. Mercury wants to like do arts and crafts and like create. So a lot of you could be wanting to learn how to cook more. A lot of you are probably wanting to learn more about very domestic things or things that you can take care of around your home. So it's giving like a lot of DIY projects. I think Pisces, if you start going through it this week, literally just like learn how to make something, you know, like learn how to cook a new dish, learn how to, you know, like, or like get yourself some new bed sheets, or like learn how to like, I don't know, like knit yourself a placemat or something, you know, but just anything to make your environment more comfortable, more cozy, more personalized, but also in a way where it's like you're able to learn something new and distract yourself. So I think that that will be a healthy form of escapism for you, to where you're not like delving into other things that are not as healthy. And the day before, on the 22nd, the sun will move into Leo, and it will be moving into your 6th house. And I like this for you because Jupiter's in the 6th house, and I just noticed when Jupiter's in the 6th house, it kind of like creates a hankering where you're wanting to be free, and you're wanting to be not shackled anymore to like a 6th house theme. So it's like a lot of you could be shedding certain responsibilities, finding your own path. And when it comes to Leo, so your self-expression, your fun, your creativity, your sense of vitality. And I feel like a lot of you could also be wanting to commit to or wanting to shine light on like a higher belief system or institution, and maybe you're trying to like find work there as well. So maybe it could be related to like higher systems, so like schools, like colleges, like government and stuff like that. So a lot of you could be trying to look for money there or look for work there. Jupiter does also have rulership over your 10th house, so I definitely think that this could for a lot of you be very career related. And now that Mercury is stationing direct, I think that this is like a very great time where a lot of you are recalibrating yourself, like, okay, what will make me feel secure, and how can I put the next step down? And the beginning of the week, the moon will be in Scorpio, and it will be in a square with Jupiter and Pluto. So the moon's in your 9th house, it will square Jupiter and Pluto, who are in your 6th and your 12th house. So I definitely think that the beginning of the week has like a very like strong philosophical flavor to it, where a lot of you are having to develop new perspectives on your work-life balance and also your routines, and how much you give to others versus how much you give to yourself, you know. Are you self-sacrificing too much? Are you finding a lot of joy in giving how much you're giving right now? Do you feel drained? Do you feel like you're not giving to yourself enough? And the moon in Scorpio in the 9th house is asking you this through like higher beliefs, your faith, your morals, your education, and your background, your certifications, you know? So it's like, am I getting paid enough to do this, you know? Am I getting enough money for how much I'm doing right now? Am I getting enough back from these people as much as I'm giving to them, you know? So I think that a lot of you are wanting to find autonomy in this area of your life, you know, right? Like the 9th house wants freedom. And I think that you're doing so in like a very aggressive way, since that's Scorpio's nature. And then the moon will also be in a trine with the sun and Mercury in your 5th house. So it's kind of giving like support from another person, from a family member, but it could also just be that, especially like a mother or like a sibling of a mother or something like that, or maybe even your dad's mother, so your grandmother. So that could be relevant for some of you. But Moon trine the sun and Mercury just kind of gives like a flow of information, communication, and having the necessary conversations with certain people in your life that you really care about, feel responsible for, or just want to nurture a little bit more. So I think that a lot of you are having important conversations this week about like your burdens and your responsibilities. You're like, hey, like this is not my job, or like, hey, like I'll do this for you, you know? But I also want to say that the moon trine the sun and Mercury, ask for help, ask for people to show up for you the way that you have shown up for them, you know, as the moon will be in a square with Jupiter and Pluto. So it's kind of like, you know, y'all, like I feel a little bit alone in this, like can I get some help? And then the people who don't give you help, now you just know something about them. Anyways, the second half of the week, the moon will be moving through Sagittarius. It will oppose Mars and Uranus. I definitely think that there will be some sort of like a tiff, or there will be something going on when it comes to a family member. And you know, Sagittarius, Jupiter's in your 6th house, responsibilities. So it's like tiffs with like family members, tiffs with your bosses, your managers, the people that you work with, the people that you live with, when it comes to responsibilities and how those are distributed. You know, it's like, oh, like I'll do this if you do that. And then they're like, well, I'm not doing that. And then you're kind of like, I'm not doing all of it. So like, you're gonna have to do something, you know? So I think that, you know, Sagittarius is very like outspoken. It's very public and it's in your 10th house. So be careful of what you say in the second half of the week, because it will have a tendency to spread very quickly, or people who maybe don't need to hear about it will hear about it, you know? So just keep that in mind. But the moon will also be in a trine with Saturn, Neptune, and Jupiter. I think it's kind of funny that it will trine Jupiter in your 6th house, because it's kind of giving like even people that wouldn't typically agree with you will agree with you. Be like, hey, yo, like usually I don't like this person, but like low-key they have a point, you know? So that could be relevant. But the trine to Saturn and Neptune is pretty nice. They are in your 2nd house. So I think that there will be a boost in resources, or there will be an opportunity for you to voice and project your morals and value systems. But just look out for that opposition to Mars and Uranus in your 4th house, because it could be creating some sort of shockwave when it comes to your family, and especially like siblings and immediate relatives. So it's like an aunt or an uncle or a brother or sister could be relevant as well. I also want to say that the moon in Sag in the 10th house, like the 10th house is like career and ambitions, and like Sagittarius, like I said, is like, it kind of just reiterates what I was saying earlier in the first part of this week, where there could be something going on of like higher institutions. But I think my best piece of advice to you is like, if you're gonna say what you're gonna say, mean what you say. Just take into, and I'm saying that because like people will be listening to you this week, you know? Your 7th and 4th house ruler is moving around this week, and it is receiving various aspects from the moon in the beginning of it. So it's like people will be listening in on you, and people will hear what you have to say. So if you're wanting attention, if you're wanting some sort of like a merit, or if you're wanting exposure, it starts with your words and how you say things. So be watchful of the things you say, and know that your words will hold a lot of power this week. Yeah, for you, we had the 3 of coins. What did I tell you? This is definitely related to collaboration, working with other people. This makes me think of just like the stuff going on with, let me think, I'm trying to think. I really like that the moon in Sag will also trine Saturn, because I'm thinking like, I'm like, that's the 11th house. And the moon, you know, Saturn does rule your 11th house. So I think that this will be an opportunity for you all to network, talk to certain people, or be in a certain circle of some sort. But just look out for people who are competing with you, or people who are trying to one-up you. Literally just do whatever it is that you need to do. Mind your own business. And I think that this week will go very smoothly for you. Don't give energy to people who are trying to criticize or one up you, because at the end of the day, like that has nothing to do with you. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Pisces. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. I love you.